Hello, everyone. Welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's Friday. It's the 2nd of May, 2025. My name is Carey Holzman, and today, I think I'm sitting down for this one because, well, I just had the set up for interviews, and quite frankly, don't want to put it all back. So we're going to do it a little different today. The subject of today's video is a brand new Minisforum PC. And, what shocks me is most of the mini PC companies have been pretty slow with new product lately. I'd say the last year, we just haven't seen the number of new machines where companies like B-Link have gone almost radio silent. And others that we were seeing machines from sporadically have cranked up their new builds from GMK Tech, builds from Paladin. We're seeing brand new stuff from them. And the previous folks we were seeing stuff from, it seems to me, have almost gone radio silent with no new innovation or any new products. But throughout all of the changes from all those manufacturers I mentioned, plus others, one has been consistently putting up brand new machines regardless, and expanding beyond machines to tablets and keyboards, controllers, and even NAS devices. And that's our friends over at Minisforum. And I'm so glad that we have this relationship with them where we can show you, and heck, quite frankly, just try and keep up with what Minisforum's got going on. Today we're going to talk about a different kind of a workstation. Minisforum has a variety of mini computers designed for any need and any budget. So they have the budget entry-level machines, right around $150. They have the mid-range, sort of your Ryzen 5 i5 machines, which are also, very commonly used for most consumers and businesses alike. Then you've got your workstations like your MS-01, MS-A1. They just introduced the MS-A2, and they sold out of it. I guess their first production run was 1,000 units because they posted on Twitter. They sold out of all 1,000. They're gone, but they've got another run coming up. So that's good for Minisforum. They're obviously doing well, as they should. Beyond the workstation, we now have something called an AI workstation. That term AI and like VR and other such terms that we hear thrown around and typically ultimately results in just marketing. AI is actually coming. We're seeing very early iterations of it, but more and more software that I use, especially software on a subscription where I get free updates throughout that subscription period, is starting to implement new AI features that are only available for computers that have AI-capable CPUs. So this is another reason you might want to upgrade that old Windows 10 computer when you download a piece of software that just simply has features that are not available to you until you upgrade. This is the same with even older computers. If we go back to Windows 95 or Windows 98, let's take Windows 95, for example. I don't believe we had any USB in Windows 95. So you probably didn't care because you likely had a printer with a big fat printer cable that was difficult to run, and often it wasn't cheap, it was slow. And eventually, when you got rid of that printer for any reason whatsoever, it broke, or you needed to get a faster printer, more pages per minute, then likely your printer was going to be USB. But if your computer wasn't, it was time to upgrade the computer. And this is where we're sitting right now in the upgrade from Windows 10 to 11, is there are a lot of people with older machines that don't have capabilities that you're going to want and you're going to need. You just don't need them yet. So these machines we're looking at today, someone's got to go first, okay? So these are an example of a company hitting the market, because we also have people that absolutely love using the AI features locally on their machine for things like Adobe products and photo editing software, video editing software. It goes on and on and on. How it benefits creators. If you are not a creator, I would even argue you don't need a computer. You need a phone or a tablet. There's two sides in this industry. There are the creators and there are the consumers. And believe me, consumers outnumber the creators 100,000 to 1. At least. Maybe it's 1,000,000 to 1. But yet consumers still stuck in the PC mindset are sort of locking themselves into a world they don't want to be. They never wanted to be there. So when they're told they need to upgrade that 14-year-old computer they never wanted to begin with, now they don't want to give it up. And it's like, well, there's security concerns, and they blow that off and they say, yeah, I don't care about that either because it's never happened to me, and therefore, using that logic, it never will. I've been driving a car my whole life. I've never been in a car accident, and therefore, a car accident will never happen. It's like the most ridiculous logic I've ever heard. But they're free to have that logic. It's theirs, and I can choose to walk away from it and say, you're going down that direction. I'm not going that direction with you. Have a nice trip. I may not be able to rescue you. Just saying, you might be too far. So in any event, what I can do to help people is within boundaries. When somebody exceeds the boundaries and they're beyond help, just replace the computer. There's nothing more I can do. And you're just prolonging the inevitable. So people are going to do what people are going to do. And I don't have to be affected by it if I choose not to in this industry. But I want you to know as consumers to make wise choices. And if you want to stay with a PC, really, by the end of this year, you need to have that Windows 11 or you need to have extended security updates that you would pay Microsoft $30 for 1 year. And then you're only going to buy yourself 1 year. That's it. So you're still getting Windows 11 eventually. You're just procrastinating the inevitable. So the alternative is if you're a consumer and you don't need the PC, now's the time to switch to something that's more consumer based and you don't need the creation device. There is one exception, and that would be gaming PCs. Gaming PCs often have the power of a workstation in addition to a very high-end graphics card that often doubles the price of the computer. Plus, the games are getting more expensive. Games were $50, $60. Now you're looking at $80, $90 coming up here in a few months. That's going to be the new standard. Welcome to inflation. I used to stick a quarter in a video game. These days, if there are video games, they're often 2 quarters. Same game. It's inflation. So, gaming PCs Minisforum also offers under a different name called Atom Man. And with Atom Man, they have discrete processors. They have a model with an AMD, a 7600 XT GPU in there. And they have a model, the G7 Ti has an NVIDIA RTX 4070 in it. We have to look these specs up. And these machines are well over $1,000, as they should be, because they are a bargain at that price, quite frankly, compared to a standard desktop that would match the specifications. You're looking around anywhere from, I'd say, $1,600 to $3,000, depending on the graphics card. So with all that said, what we've got in front of us today may be a little bit confusing. I'm a little bit, I don't agree, let's put it to you that way, with the marketing of these from Minisforum, because the X1 AI Pro we previously reviewed, and I love this computer. This is by far the single most powerful mini PC I have in the stable. I mean, the G7 Ti comes close. However, the G7 Ti is a 14900 with that RTX 4070. This is an AMD AI processor. And while these are not designed for gaming, they'll certainly do it. The onboard graphics on here is very impressive, but it's not a discrete graphics card. These also have the ability to add an external dock for a graphics card, but at that point, I think you're using the wrong tool. Personally, I wouldn't advise that, but we'll talk more about that in the future, not today. But the naming scheme here is a little confusing, because if you go on Google right now and you look for the X1 AI versus, well, that one says X1 AI too. But this is the X1 AI Pro, and this is just the X1 AI without the Pro. And you can see they're very different. Just the boxes alone suggest these are two very different machines. So I want to talk to you about the differences today, and I tried Googling for the X1 AI to see if anybody's reviewed it, and all I can find is Minisforum official YouTube channel talking about it. So the field is wide open for us to explore this and help alleviate any confusion between the two models. Because what makes the confusion even more is there's 3 different ways you can configure, 3 different processors you can get the X1 AI. Let me show you. Let's go over, first of all, let's go over to the Minisforum website, and I want to show you the specifications of what is supposed to be in this box. I have not unboxed this yet. We were going to do that together. You and I will experience that for the first time live. And right here is the Minisforum AI X1. Now look at the price. It's $439. $439 is a great price, by the way. But also that's with the lowest end processor. That's an AMD Ryzen 7 260. The minute we go to the 255, both of these, by the way, they're not even shipping yet. That's how new these are. Price goes up a little bit, $379. Oh, price went down. Sorry, that's a lower end. 255 is a smaller number than 260. I said these were unscripted. And then what I think we have in front of us, because this one doesn't have a shipping date, I think this is the first model, the AMD Ryzen AI9 365 CPU. That's their high-end AI processor from AMD. And again, at $579, that is a bargain. And the reason I say that is if we look over here at the AI X1 Pro, this starts at $929. So it's quite a bit more money. And it's a different processor. It's the AI9 HX370, which I believe, the AMD processor is a little confusing, but I believe this is as good as it gets for AI from AMD CPUs right now. I have to look into this a little bit more, but that would explain the price difference. Obviously, the form factor of the case is much different. PCIe Gen 4, there are 3 M.2 slots in there. It supports Oculink, as we mentioned, the external GPU port. 2.5 gig, Wi-Fi 7, and Bluetooth 5.4 with fingerprint authentication and a Copilot button on the front. And, you know, we can go look through the specs. Pretty much this says it's expected to ship in late May. They've already been shipping these, so I think they're referring to, oh, I don't know, maybe what they're selling on. Oh, I think I know what it is. I think maybe they sold out of their first batch. That's likely what it is. And you see, you get it, basically, it starts at 32 gig of RAM with a terabyte storage. Then it doubles to 64 gigs of RAM with a terabyte. And then it doubles the storage and adds another 32 gigs of RAM for 96 gigs of RAM with 2 terabytes already configured. So you just take it out of the box and use it for $1,120. Now, by comparison, when we look back at the X1 AI X1 non-Pro, there's a big difference here in these processors. We're also looking at bare bone prices on this one, meaning this is a price without RAM, storage, or an operating system. So that explains that lower price. So if you want to add RAM onto this and storage, so here's 64 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte. You know, these aren't budget machines. They're not starting with 8 gigs of RAM and 256. You can do that yourself if you want to. It doesn't make any sense other than on a budget machine to spec it out that low. So here we're looking at $829 equipped. And I'm not even sure what they sent me. We have to open the box up and explore it together. Now on the outside, it looks like any other standard shape of mini PC. You've got your dimensions here, as well as it explains it supports 4 monitors with HDMI 2.1 out, a single DisplayPort out, and 2 USB 4 ports out that support video outputs. So that's a total of 4 screens simultaneously. A little about the processor you're going to see when we talk about AI. We're talking about something called TOPS. That's trillions of operations per second. What's a good number? Well, at this point, any number is a good number if your CPU even supports that. These numbers are going to grow exponentially over time. They're going to keep doubling and doubling and doubling. And at the same time, demand on AI within software you use as a creator will become more demanding. So they should grow together as needed. Again, it depends on your usage. Of course, it's got regular DDR5 SODIMM laptop style memory you can replace no differently than any other type of laptop RAM. It's got built-in speakers and microphone, which is pretty standard for today's mini PCs overall. If you look at game playing, which again, this isn't really designed to play games so much as create the games, you'll see that, I just lost my page. There it is. You'll see they've done League of Legends and Counter-Strike 2 and it keeps moving on me. Dota, what is that? Defense of the Ages? I can't remember what that stands for. And they've already done all of these tests. We don't have to replicate them. We know when we look at specs like PUBG Battlegrounds and Cyberpunk 2077, they're showing the resolution, they're giving you all the detail, but it's not going to play any better than that with those configs. So we don't have to redo these tests. They've already done them for us. So if that's not up to your standard, then obviously you want to look at something more for playing the games versus creating the games. Of course, they talk about silent operation and the quietness of the machine. It does support USB 4, which is 40 gigabits per second, which is super fast. It's 2.5 gig LAN, the latest Wi-Fi 7 with Bluetooth 5.4. And I'm just looking through here. We're looking at it together just to see. Oh, it comes with a Visa mount apparently, so you can hang the little PC up or put it under a desk or behind a monitor. There's the rear ports with a barrel-style power connector, Ethernet, DisplayPort, Oculink is below the DisplayPort. Then USB 4, HDMI, and a USB 2, which is ideal for a keyboard and mouse or mouse. There's a difference right there between the AI X1 and the AI X1 Pro. Usually Pro would indicate, in my experience in American marketing, a higher end version of the AI X1, but nothing that's physically different. This is a very different machine. I think it's worthy of a very different title. Maybe an AI X2 would have made more sense to me. Because if you Google search AI X1, you likely will not find anything on this one. All you're going to do is pull up this one. It's going to get really confusing if you're in the market to buy one. So for that reason, I think Minisforum should have made a bigger distinction in the model names. But I'm sure there's some logic to it here that maybe when we dig into it, it'll start making sense. A little bit more about all of the built-in power adapter. Oh, that's on the big one here. Yeah, this one has built-in power supply. That's another reason why it's bigger. And you know, some people like that, some people don't. I personally love it. I think it's fantastic. And that's what we're working with today. All right, that's what we're going to take a look at. We've already looked at the AI X1 Pro. We will revisit this again. I wasn't happy with the way my review went down, so I want to redo this one. But in the meantime, I don't want to hold up this review here, especially while it's so fresh and new. At this time, Computex is going on over in Taipei. And I imagine a lot of industry folks like Minisforum are probably there in attendance right now. And we'll see what new announcements are coming out from Computex this week. I'm sure other YouTube tech content creators are probably out there with that 18-hour flight, at least for me, and the 80-degree with 200% humidity temperatures. Yeah, I'll let them go ahead. You go first. But I'm excited to see what announcements are made there, what new product announcements are made. In the meantime, let me say hello to everybody joining us here in the chat. Let's see, who do we have joining? Ron Barnish saying hello. There's Darren Gilholm, and Ray 08131 says hello with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Ray. And Mark Gaines joining us all with a 20-pound super chat. Thank you to Mark Gaines. Lou Greenia says hello, and so does Ben Laird. Ben joins us from Scotland, and Lou Greenia is in Vermont. Scott says hello, as does Elijah52 Dickens and Eddie Casanova and Gregory Howard. I haven't seen Gregory Howard in a few days, a couple weeks maybe. Good to see you, Gregory. Thomas MacT saying hello from St. Petersburg, Florida. Thank you, Thomas. Good to see you. Hey, there's Peter Laycock, our friend Buster. Buster says, hey, Carey, Mara, and everyone in the chat, all the best from Bonnie, Scotland. Temperature in Edinburgh, 57 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 13.8 degrees Celsius. Warming up over there. Sounds lovely. We're going to hit 94 degrees Fahrenheit today. And it's going to be warm throughout the weekend, but Monday it'll cool back down, thankfully, into the 80s. So summer hasn't quite got both hands on Phoenix yet. Still kind of breaking free every little, trying to get a little bit more of that cooler weather. Let's see, 3D Everything says hello, and Zub-Zero joining us, along with MX, and Doman 2000 joining us from the Netherlands. Dwayne Blackwelder says hello, tells Mara that he ordered her cookbook on Wednesday. He just got it today from Amazon. Nice work, and I'm looking to try out some of the recipes. Let us know what you think, Dwayne. It's all healthy, low carb, zero sugar, and delicious. There's some great ingredient substitutes now for things like sugar and flour, alternatives that are coming closer and closer, and in some cases even surpassing what we've all gotten used to. And it's a, you talk about how the tech industry has been growing. What's been happening with food and discoveries using anything from psyllium husk to these nut-based flours, almond flour. Where was this stuff when I was growing up? So yeah, she's really utilizing the latest in ingredients that are available as substitutes for what we've all sort of grown up with and are accustomed to as normal, which aren't necessarily good for us. Craig Wilson says hello, and John Paul Bacon saying hello as well. David Martinez and Richard DeFries are joining us. And Peter Laycock says he's starting to feel a little better. That's what we want to hear. Very good. Chris Johnson says hello. Lawrence Pierre says hello. Jerry Kelly says, I got one of the Ryzen and it works good. The Ryzen what? Okay. It's a perfect dork in the chat room says, next few years are going to take over. Oh, iGPUs are going to take over. I'm impressed with my B-Link EQR for $232 and handles GTA 5 enhanced on high settings. We all have a measure. If I told any of my customers the reason you should buy this computer is because it handles GTA 5 on high settings, they would look at me and go, it handles what? And that means what? So everybody's got, and I want to emphasize that everybody's got a use case for their computer, whether it's entertainment, whether it's work. Sometimes it's both. There are several different configurations and styles and price ranges to accommodate those needs. And there you go. Tony's RC says, destroy that chair behind you. I have another chair on order, but just want to do something different. Is that okay? Just do something a little different. There's Ask Your Computer Guy. Oh, why is he not blue in here? Should be blue. Welcome in, Scott. Thanks for stopping in and saying hello. Mark Leibowitz said he sees the AI X1 Pro. He says currently $1,250 on Amazon, but only 3 left on the first listing I found. Well, those tariffs take effect today, and we'll have to wait and see how companies respond and how the prices will be affected here in the US. I don't think the tariffs are going to last that long. I don't think they can, because it's not just costing Americans more money, it's costing the Chinese workers their jobs they're being laid off and sent home, and the factories are shut down. The people who ship all the cargo from China to America, they're being laid off. Routes are being canceled. And we're going to see who gives in first, I guess. And we've got the leader of China. I don't know his title. But he, similar to America's Trump, very stubborn. On the other hand, both Trump and he are going to experience more and more pressure from the people that they govern. So even though they might be able to stick it out because they're wealthy, their countries will start to have problems with poverty in many of their communities. That's going to grow like a virus for both of us. And the question is, who's giving in first? That's why I don't think it's going to last that long, and I hope I'm right. So it may be just a brief pause that we as Americans put off buying something that is doubled or more in price overnight. Whatever is in existing inventory here in the US, it should sell for whatever the lowest prices they can offer it at. So if they brought a bunch of stuff in, eventually that stuff will all be sold. And if this issue hasn't been fixed by then they may not bring any more in. It may cost too much money. And if they do, then you're going to have to pay more. So if you just wait a little bit until all this settles down, that may be the best course of action, unless, as I mentioned, there's currently inventory here in the States. And this is strictly stuff coming from China. Like for everybody else, it's, you know, stuff from Vietnam and stuff. It's not that big of a deal. But we'll wait and see how this plays out, because this machine at $1250, if these tariff things don't get worked out, this will become $2,800 in tariffs with the tariffs. As a result of that, they probably aren't going to want to ship many over here. So we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. In the meantime, if you think it's pricey now, just wait. But if you continue waiting, I expect this all gets resolved. And I hope it gets resolved by Monday, but I don't think it's going to happen that soon. I think we just need to tighten our belts a little bit, appreciate what we have before constantly going out and finding something new, at least if it's coming from China, until this whole issue gets resolved. It'll get resolved, I just don't know when. Gregory Howard with a $20 super chat says, hello again. I am computer poor. How do I get these thin out of here so I can walk around my house? Oh, he's got too many computers. I have the same problem, Gregory. When you come up with a solution for that, please share it with me. Mark Lieboyd said, I was just discussing this with a client today. The question was whether to buy a laptop now or to wait. His laptop isn't that old, and he has a spare, and he's content to hold off for now. Well, again, the prices haven't necessarily hit us here yet. Any existing inventories should sell for the same price. It upsets me because the fuel companies don't seem to work that way, the gasoline sellers. So let's say I own a filling station and the price of gas has gone up. It's pretty common, at least here in Phoenix, for the gas stations to change their prices immediately the minute the price of gas goes up, even though the gas they have in the tanks they paid for at yesterday's prices. That's nonsense, and I think it should be illegal. But the only thing I can think of where that happens is in gasoline. I can't think of any other industry that does that. You know, you'd think that they would sell the tanks of gas they have based on a profit margin of what they paid for it, but that's not what they do. If the price of gas goes up, typically what I experience is that same day the price of gas goes up at all the filling stations all around me. They all do it. But when the price of gas goes down, a little slower to bring the prices down, usually a couple days. Wonder why that is. So at least when it comes to these tariffs, likely what's going to happen is the companies aren't going to be bringing cargo in at these high prices. And it's going to be very similar that we experienced during the pandemic with things being hard to get, just for a completely different reason. Instead of there being shipping lines or shipping lanes that are all backed up because the customs can't get through them, they hire enough people and have enough truckers. Now we've got truckers sitting around doing nothing. We're laying off dock workers from the ports, and the ships have stopped coming. Well, they're still trickling in, but not like it used to be, because the companies don't want to pay all that much money to bring the stuff in. Imagine economically if you start bringing these in at twice the cost, and then the tariffs get worked out, but you've already paid the tariff. You can't afford to sell this for less than it cost you to bring it in, but now if you bring it in, it costs half as much, let's say, after this whole thing gets worked out. What do you do with existing inventory? Do you take that as a financial loss? So your choice is don't bring anything in and don't have any inventory until this gets worked out. And if it never gets worked out, you just stop selling to America and you focus on other countries, right? Because China can ship these all over the world, no problem. It's, right now the issue is America. But as a business owner, if you want to remain with inventory during this period, you will pay more to fill your warehouse. And then if the tariff drops and your warehouse is still full because people aren't paying at that price, what are you going to do now? Because now you could bring that same warehouse full of inventory in at half the price, but you don't have room to put it in your warehouse because you're still filled up from the last time that you paid twice as much for. You're going to sell that at half price? Millions of dollars just gone. So likely you won't order anything. That makes the most sense. Just what's ever in the warehouses now, we'll sell it because, hey, money. But then to bring that stuff in and it's such an extraordinarily high percentage, doesn't make economic sense to take that risk with no guarantee that the price might drop off tomorrow. So let's just wait and see. And if it never drops off, let's take our business somewhere else. That's the situation we're currently in, as I understand it, right now. So my advice is just sit tight for a while. Don't worry yet if you're in America. Likely everything's still in inventory. This thing just took effect today. But some companies were prepared for it and have ordered as much as they could handle prior to this taking effect at the current prices. And some people may panic buy. And it's just from stuff coming from China. Everything else in America is the same as far as food and such. It's not really impacted. Certainly, if it is, not as dramatically as this stuff. So that being said, computers are exempted from one of the tariffs. So they shouldn't be as extreme of a price hike, but nonetheless, it's still pretty extreme in my opinion. We'll see how it plays out. My concern with Minisforum right now is, are we still going to be able to get more units for review? I don't know, and I haven't asked them. I haven't even broached the subject with them. And of course, here in the US, US citizens need to realize there's a lot of countries out there. 172, I think. And the US is just one of 170 plus countries. These manufacturers aren't going out of business because they're not selling to the US. They sell it all over the world. Australia, Germany, all throughout Europe, as well as countries like India, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So America is a big piece of the pie, but it's not the entire pie, okay? And they're not going anywhere. Minisforum clearly won't be producing as many units, likely, but they're also not going to be, bleeding out. Just won't be making as much sales. That's why I'm thinking this probably isn't going to go on too long before somebody gives in. Hopefully there's a compromise somewhere in there. But in the meantime, that's where we're at. That's the best I understand it. And yeah, just try and keep positive about it, and we can postpone buying this stuff mostly There's very few people who absolutely have to have it right this second. And if you do, get it now, because when the warehouses are empty here in America, they might stay empty for a while for that imported stuff from China until this is resolved. All right, so set your expectations accordingly. Mats Olaf joins us and says hello from Norway. Wait, is it Norway or Sweden? Sweden. It's been a while. I see him. I've slept since then and I can't remember. Anyway, welcome in, Mats Olaf. Nick Poverman says hello. Of course, welcome in to our friend Nick Poverman. Jose Lopez says hello. There's Patrick Manny saying hello in the chat. Natty Light King Kong. Carey, have you built an Intel Ultra 9? Yeah, we did that back in September. So if you go back and watch that, watch the ASUS ProArt build. We did all the Intel Ultra processors already, the 5, the 7, and the 9. And Intel has not released any new ones, which I thought by now we'd have more variations of the Ultra 7, 5, and 9, but they've not been released. I don't know why. Let's see. Yes, Mats Olaf said he is in Sweden. Yeah, thank you for that, Mats Olaf. I will remember one day. It will happen. It was this close. All right, let's set the X1 AI. Well, tell you what, let's take it out of the box. Just, you've seen it before if you've been watching the channel, and you'll see the way this is packed. It's right edge to edge in the box here. They wasted no space on packing material. And this is my favorite Minisforum workstation. Now, I personally don't need much in the way of the AI features of it. It's just really freaking fast and filled with ports. It's quiet and it's responsive as all get out. So my previous favorite, which sits over there, is the MS-01, followed by the MS-A1. And now they just released the MS-A2. And I'm on the fence about this, having not seen an MS-A2 in person. I still think this little guy right here is king of the hill from my perspective. But what if this is a little too rich for your blood? What if you don't need quite that much? For nearly half the price, they offer the X1 AI without the Pro. So for the very first time, let's get it unboxed and see what it looks like. Taped. It says tear here. Never seen that kind of packaging before. Okay. As you can see, very first time unboxing, so we share this experience live, unedited, for real reaction, and give you an idea of how yours should be packed if you order one. It looks like that. And we'll take this out. Sometimes they have a plastic bag they wrap the computers in, and it's got like a sealed lip on it that you cannot unseal. You just have to tear through the bag. This is like a paper. It's pretty interesting. Different kind of material here. And apparently recyclable. Okay, well, just, I mean, side by side immediately, we can see just how different the size is between these two. And given they share the same name, you know, that's why I say calling them both the AI X1 is, I don't know, I feel like one should be the AI X2. I don't know, what do you think? If I go to a close-up camera here, let me see what this does. If I bring it up this way, because it's still on my face for interviewing, maybe I can hold it up this way and I don't have to walk up to the camera with them anymore. So that gives you an idea of the size difference and the price difference accordingly. So we know this one is very capable. As I mentioned, this one is my current pick of the litter of everything Minisforum makes. from their monitors and keyboards and controllers, their upcoming NASs, and other mini PCs we've seen from them for me to fit my needs. That one got my name all over it. But is this one so similar for my needs that I can't tell them apart? I am curious about that myself, because it's entirely possible that I can't tell these apart, depending on what I'm expecting it to be able to do and how I use it. So with that, let's go back over to our regular camera there and continue to see what's going on inside the box. What's included here? We've got, I guess, just a piece of paper there. Take that out. And then down here, we've got this fake floor, which separates out the accessories. So in the bottom here, we've got some documentation, which I will set there. We've got an HDMI cable. We have what appears to be an Oculink add-in. You can either use the Oculink port as a secondary NVMe drive, or you can use it as an external graphics dock. So this is apparently not installed by default, and it's an option. If you choose to use Oculink, you would give up one of your NVMe ports. Yep, that's exactly. See, it looks just like a standard NVMe drive, except it's a little funky shape down here. And then that's your Oculink port that's going to poke out. There's a little dust cover covering the port right now because it's empty. There's nothing behind it. So this is an optional add-in that is included with the price. Some of you will never use it, and some of you will never not use it. It's almost, when I talk to people, it's almost like a 50-50 split about whether or not this has value to them. So it makes sense that it's not pre-installed from the factory and that you can install it yourself, but at least they're not nickel and diming you for it. It's included. And kudos to Minisforum for making that marketing decision. This is our power brick right here. And this power brick, if I get my glasses out, I will tell you how many watts this is. This is a 120 watt power brick. Small, light, and has the cloverleaf style power that goes to the wall. And then finally we have a VESA mount with the screws required to secure the VESA mount to the back of the computer. And then from the back of the computer you can then mount it, behind a monitor, on a wall, the side of your desk, under your desk, wherever you want. I've never used a VESA mount in my life. I'm glad it comes with it. The last thing we have in the box, I just threw the VESA mount back in there. It's our power cable, and that's a standard laptop power brick style. Cloverleaf, Mickey Mouse, right? It looks like Mickey Mouse, the profile. Very common. I like when we're not using any proprietary connectors. I also like that this doesn't plug directly in the wall because it doesn't leave me enough slack cable to often reach the desk. So with that, that's everything in the box. I'm going to put all this other stuff back in here for now and set it aside. Put it over there. In fact, I'll turn it this way so you can see the name of it in case you're just tuning in. There's the name. Oh, documentation can go in there too. Keep it all together, Carey. And specs wise, this is the AMD Ryzen 7. That's what the sticker says right over there. And we'll fire it up and we'll take a look at the specs. We'll see what version of Windows we have on here. We'll check it for updates, which shouldn't hopefully take very long, and just take an overall look at the responsiveness, configuration, as well as notice if the fans seem to be quiet or loud. So let's do that right now. So in order for me to hook this up, I need to get my HDMI cable, which I have down here. So bear with me for a second as I start pulling cables up off the floor. We're still renovating Studio C, so eventually I will have this all within reach when I'm done. So HDMI cable there. I'm not going to plug it into the internet yet, because if we're going through our first time out-of-box experience, I don't want to be forced into creating a Microsoft account. So for that first boot up, no internet. There is power, and I need a keyboard and a mouse, which I have right over here. Okay. And I think that's all we need for our first boot. So I'll turn my wireless keyboard and mouse on. I always shut them off to save battery. Even though they're supposed to do that on their own, I don't trust them. And I have one dongle that controls both of these, which is a really nice feature for somebody like me that's always having to move equipment. And you know, if this keyboard and mouse could talk and tell you how many machines they've been plugged into, it's probably a lot more than any of you watching. So they get a lot of abuse, and you know, fewer parts means fewer things to break. So that's why I'm a big fan of a single-use dongle. Okay, what I'm going to do is fire this up here. We should get a power light, and we do right there. And if you want to take a closer look at that, there's our power light on. And then let's switch over to our output of this machine. We should get a post or a power on self-test that says Minisforum here in just a minute. Your very first boot does take a little bit longer. So under daily usage, your boot up time won't take this long. Also, going through that out-of-box experience also delays getting us to the desktop on that very first boot. But subsequent boots after that will happen much faster, and that's with every computer and laptop ever built using Windows operating system, at least since Windows 7. That's how it's been. All right, so let me go full screen over here so I can see it the way you do. Oh, good, my live chat just crashed. Thank you, YouTube and Google Chrome. Ray said he sent a greeting and a super chat earlier, but I don't see it in the chat. We did read it aloud a few minutes ago, Ray. And thank you again for your super chat. And yeah, super chat only goes back so far. It can only hold so much at any given time, but it will be in the replay of the video. And we thank you for your membership and your super chat, by the way. All right, so here is our out-of-box experience, which looks like any normal clean install of Windows 11 here. We're going to pick English, yeah. And then it wants to know our country is United States, yes. Keyboard layout is United States, and we're skipping a secondary language keyboard layout. Our Wi-Fi pops up, but we have the I don't have internet option. So I'm going to click on that. I do not want this connecting to the internet in any way, shape, or form, so that I can create a local account. So for this, I'm going to just type in user, enter. I'm going to leave the password blank. That way when it restarts, it starts right into the desktop. And I'm going to leave location settings on. That's going to keep our date and time accurate with the network time protocol, NTP, over the internet. Because clocks always lose or gain minutes, and over days or weeks, months, and years, they could lose a significant amount of minutes. They're just not that accurate. So with it just going out automatically, periodically, and synchronizing with the internet time, one of the internet time servers, you don't have to think about it. It'll even self-adjust for your time zone during daylight saving. So you can, you don't have to keep adjusting it manually. There's some other benefits to location, but that's why I leave it on. Now it takes that configuration information that I have selected for my personal preferences, and typically it meets the requests of my customers. Anything I've done here can be changed. It's not that big of a deal, but that's the generic way I set up a brand new computer that could be sold to literally anybody, or I could be using it myself. It's sort of my own universal one-size-fits-all foundation that we can build upon. I don't do them differently because then how would I remember? There's just too many computers in my world for me to keep track of doing things differently. It's too much. I don't want to work that hard. It's too much work. So for that reason, everything always gets set up the same, and that way I can maintain my sanity just a little bit longer. Now you'll notice all these ghosted icons right here, and that's because we've not connected it to a network yet. It's ready to fill those in with something. And if I grab my network cable, my Ethernet cable, now that we've set up our local account, now I'm free to plug the Ethernet cable in or connect to Wi-Fi. And once it establishes an IP address, which you'll see happen typically right down here, it's getting it now. That flashing will stop in the bottom right corner. That'll become a solid monitor. And as soon as that happens, these icons fill in with the information from the Microsoft servers. It's that quick. And if there's anything in here you don't want, just right-click, uninstall. And by the time I click uninstall, it's already gone. It's not bloat. It's, well, they're little shortcuts is all they are. So it's really simple to remove this stuff. Click, ready? 1, 2, 3, click. I couldn't even get to 1, it was already gone. So for anybody to develop separate applications to do this for you, you're spending, in my opinion, more time on that than just simply removing these things. They're so easy. LinkedIn, that's a shortcut. Let's go over here and say, hey, get rid of that. Uninstall. Ready? 3, 2, 1, uninstall. Here we go. 1, I couldn't even get to 1 second. It takes less than a second. Anyway, they're gone forever. We're done with that. Let's take a look at our system specs. Right-click on the Start button. We're going to go to System. Which CPU did we get in this? AMD Ryzen 7 260 with Radeon. Wow, I need my glasses. Are we in 4K? I bet we are. Let me right-click on the desktop, go to Properties. Oh, Display Settings. Yeah, that's why I can't read it. Let's go to 1920 by 1080. Now I should be able to read things a bit better. Right-click, System. Okay, Ryzen 7 260. Radeon 780 built-in, 780M, so the M stands for mobile. Built-in graphics, 32 gigs of installed DDR5. It's Windows 11 Pro 24H2, but you notice Minisforum has configured this with the bypass NRO built into the installer, which is really cool that they did that. We're going to be missing some updates, so let's see. It shouldn't be many though, because we're already on 24H2. We'll go to Settings. Oh, we're already at Settings, Carey. We'll just go to Windows Update. I like to turn this feature on, and I like to come to Advanced and turn on this one, and this one. Now you may choose differently, but that's, if you're curious how I do it, not keeping any secrets. With that being done, and while we're waiting, I'm going to right-click again, only this time I'm going to look in the Device Manager, and we'll take a look at a few things in here, such as what network adapters we have. We have a MediaTek Wi-Fi adapter. I'm not a fan of the MediaTek only because you must get your MediaTek drivers from the manufacturer of the computer. MediaTek does not make their drivers available to the public. Realtek makes the 2.5 gig regular LAN connection, and you can download drivers for Realtek and Intel wired and wireless network cards directly from Realtek and Intel. I need MediaTek to get on board with that, and then they'll have my endorsement. But until then, if you need a MediaTek driver, you need to go to the manufacturer of the PC and download it from them. And if it's an older driver, too bad. You know, that's just how it works. So that's a reason why I don't have any issue with MediaTek. They work fine. My issue is relying on the manufacturer solely for the driver for it when I don't have to do that with Intel and with Realtek. One of the other things we've been checking is Secure Boot. We go to MSInfo32, and as soon as I start typing MSInf, it says System Information. That's what I want. That's different from System. This confuses people. There's system. That's this screen back here. That's in the background. This is system. This is system information. Two very different screens. Under secure boot or secure boot state, it is turned on by default. So what you've got to keep in mind is what to expect based on the price of the unit. If you're buying a mini PC from some manufacturer that apparently doesn't even have a website, as we've experienced here in the past, you may find a lot of these settings are not thoroughly adjusted correctly, and you're on your own for figuring it out. But when you buy from a reputable manufacturer like Minisforum or other brand names, even though Minisforum may not be a brand name for you as a consumer, it should be if you're looking at mini PCs, because they are, from my opinion, from my perspective, the leader in this industry. They're the ones everybody copies. They're the ones who come out with all the new designs. Not all the new designs are good, by the way. But how else are you going to know? If everybody else is all built in the same square boxes, it gets real boring real quick. And then whether you choose the one on the left or the one on the right, who cares? What difference does it make? So at least with Minisforum, they've got a reason to buy this, in that they're usually offering something different and they have a lot more variety. I don't know of any other mini PC manufacturer in the world that has as many different models available at any given time. There's so many variations within each model, in most cases, that represents, if you take all the other mini PC manufacturers and put them together, maybe then you could exceed Minisforum's variety. I mean, they have a ton of variety of, what's current. Don't even talk about what past models are. So that may be a little hyperbole, that may be a little exaggeration, but it is, in my experience, sometimes overwhelming to see the choices that Minisforum makes, and that they're not specializing in a certain genre. They're not saying, hey, we only make gaming mini PCs, or we only make budget mini PCs, or we only make mid-range. They cover it all. They have keyboards and docking stations and portable monitors. They're all over the place with all the different kinds of technology they foresee their customers needing, where hopefully you would prefer to have a Minisforum keyboard because it's built better. And you combine that with your Minisforum PC and your Minisforum portable monitor, and you want to use your Minisforum Oculink GPU dock. Not that you have to, the idea is that you'll want to, because they're gonna, if you feel the way I do about it, they're offering you a solid product with peace of mind that they're gonna stand behind if there's any issues. Whereas with other manufacturers, I don't know, maybe not. So if you're not a gambler and you don't want to take that risk and stick with who you know, Minisforum doesn't force you to go outside of the company to purchase these items, and they also don't force you to buy the items from them. It's freely your choice as a consumer. But they give you every reason you would want to pick them: uniqueness, quality, and price. Now, I'm not paid to make this video. I am telling you, if you were consulting with me as my customer, I am telling you exactly what I would tell a customer in the market for a mini PC, exactly what I'm looking at, who I like, and then, of course, listening to what the consumers, whatever my customer needs. What are your needs? What are your budget? Because I'm sure Minisforum has something that can fit that. Probably 2 or 3 things. If for some reason it's sold out, it's not available, there are other manufacturers I like. But my first go-to, and for me personally, the single best mini computers I have are made by Minisforum. The entire Atom Man line is insane. The S790, S7, crazy. I mean, just incredible variety, power, performance. And when you consider what they're charging for it, at least before the tariffs kick in, it's really good value. And that's just fact. You can fact check that all you want. Try building something like this with modular parts. Motherboards alone today are like $200. Power supplies are at least $100 for most power supplies today. You're going to quickly exceed the cost of this before you've got half the parts together. Now, granted, this is using laptop or mobile parts, so they're less power consuming, they generate less heat. They also don't perform as well as desktop equivalents. And the desktop equivalents can cost you a good 40% more when it's all said and done. But I'm not sure you're getting 40% more in performance. Like, your value proposition is well, it depends what you're looking to do, right? I think for most gamers, you're still better off with building your own machine versus, getting a gaming laptop, for example, because you're never going to be able to upgrade that. You're just going to have to replace it. They're very expensive. They're heavy. Their battery life sucks because they just draw so much power. The battery's going to drain faster. So if you really are a true gamer and you want to keep up, you absolutely have to be able to swap that video card out. And you absolutely have to have deep pockets to afford to be able to keep up. And for that, the desktop still remains king for that purpose, in my opinion. But whether or not it's good enough, well, that's a different story. They'll play the games. They just may not play them at the frame rates or the resolutions or the multiple monitors that some gamers demand. And they can demand all they want so long as they can back those demands up with their wallet. But for the rest of us looking for great value, I think these are absolutely worthy of consideration. Now, having said that, let me take a look over here in the chat and see what I've been missing. John Schaefer said, I've been online fondling a Minisforum for a while. Sounds a little creepy. I set up a UM790 for a friend, and I was quite impressed. Well, he was, or his friend was. I have to tell you, every Minisforum I've worked on, I've been impressed with. When you consider how much power you're getting, how quiet they run, and how responsive they are. When we talk about the UM773, the UM773 Lite, what is it, the 860, 890, and the 890 Slim, there's some incredible values there. The NAB9, are you kidding me? The NAB9 and even the NAD9, amazing computers. I would put those in a heartbeat in any of my clients' offices, and they would love me for it. They're snappy, they're quick, they're tiny. There's the expression on their faces. How is that little thing so much faster than my big box? And I'm like, not only is that, but it's cheaper, it uses less power, so your electric bill over the course of the years that you use it is going to be less, and that will add up. I promise you. You may not notice it, but that's adding up month after month. If you're in an office 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, compared to the power consumption of a desktop to one of these, and you're in an office and you have 20 or 30 stations, multiply the savings of one over 12 months in electrical cost alone times 30, or the number of units you have, and you'll see they can pay for themselves quite quickly just in electrical cost. And when you include the output of heat that many desktops will put out, here in Phoenix, you're already running the air conditioner. So now you're paying for the electricity to generate the heat, and you're paying for the electricity to cool the room down. You got 30 towers in one giant room, all adding to the heat of that room, making that room more difficult to cool. They're fighting each other, although the air conditioner will win because it's putting out a lot more air. The person who loses is the one who has to pay the electric bill at the end of the month. There's that to consider as well. Not to mention how much space your employee has at their desk, with a big tower eating up a good portion of it, typically on the floor. Chairs are banging into it. They're banging their knees into it. This is, typically we put these right on the desk. Sometimes they have a little monitor hutch. Some of my customers do. And we just slide it right under the monitor hutch. So now they've got the button and the ports right there. The monitor's a little higher where they can see it. And then they have typically a keyboard tray they pull out at their desk. And they're like, where's this been all my life? And how much did this cost us? And I explain how they just save money by not having me replace their towers with more towers. I explain the electrical cost impact that it'll have over time. And all I can tell you is they're never upset by it. Can you imagine? So, yeah. Let me get back over to the desktop here. How are we doing on updates? Oh, I want to check my power settings because I don't want this to fall asleep on me or go to sleep on me while we're live. So I'm going to go down here in the search box. Whoops. I'm going to type in edit, EDIT. There, edit power plan comes up as our suggestion up here. I'll tap on that. Oh, it's set to never right out of the box. I'll put it on 3 hours just because sometimes I forget, but 3 hours is plenty. And then the other thing is I like to get rid of that little cartoon down on the search bar. I just type in search space permission, and I don't have to type in all of it. Just, well, I have to type in search correctly though. Search space permission, yeah, search permissions and history comes up as a suggestion. That's what I want. I'm going to scroll down and just turn that last setting off. That gets rid of that cartoon down there that drives me crazy. And while we're doing all this, we can also go to installed apps. And I can remove things that I don't want on the system while Windows updates are installing. I don't know what Microsoft Family is, so I don't think I'm going to miss it if it's gone. Very quickly uninstalls. I don't want this media player. I replace this with VLC. So I get rid of that. I don't need it, and it's very quickly gone. Microsoft Bing Search does not uninstall. So, oh, wait a minute. This one does. Well, good. We'll get rid of it. If the uninstall is shaded out, it's not a big deal. Just move on. Microsoft News, I don't want that either. We're going to take that out of there. Microsoft OneDrive, personally, I don't use OneDrive. Now that's a big one, all right? That's 409 megs. It starts, if there was anything that would default to what I would call bloatware, this is the closest thing in 2025 that we have to bloatware on a Windows 11 stock install. They like to throw Teams on here. No sooner than I delete it, it'll come back with an update. It's tiny, it just pops out of there. Any of these things you can get back very easily, like mobile plans and such. You can often download these and put them back on the system with the Microsoft Store, or you just Google it if you're having trouble finding it. Now, this is interesting. This is not supposed to be installed by default. PC Manager. I wonder if Microsoft has done this or if Minisforum has done this. It's standard practice for me to add this into all Windows 11 installs. This is a free utility for maintaining your computer. And this is now one less thing I have to add later. I'm okay with that. Wow, thank you. Remote desktop connection is a security risk. I always uninstall it, but doing so requires a reboot. So I will save this until we're ready to reboot. Xbox Live, I don't need that. I've never known anybody who uses it, but I guess somebody uses it. And it can be put back. Everything I'm taking off can be put back on. Oftentimes right through the Microsoft Store, and other times you can just Google for a command to download that in a command prompt window. Now, because this is an AMD-based computer, we definitely want to check our AMD Adrenalin software. And quite often, you have to download the AMD chipset software. This, I'm still figuring out the confusion here because I was doing a reinstall yesterday, and I grabbed AMD Adrenalin, and I still had devices in my device manager that, as Ask Your Computer guy would call splats. They have exclamation marks. And it turned out that I only got the graphics card driver using AMD Adrenalin. So I'm not sure. I got to look more into this. But I had, excuse me, I had downloaded the drivers from the manufacturer's website, and in them was a separate folder that said AMD chipset software. So I'm sure if I go to the AMD website, I will identify where I'm going wrong on this. Because if I didn't check, I wouldn't have known those devices were not loaded, and therefore the computer's not operating to the best of its ability, even though it was operating just fine from what I could tell. It would only operate better if I would load those devices. So I always, when I go to my start menu, right click and go to device manager and make sure we don't have any exclamation points in here. And if we do, we want to resolve that for a stable, secure, and fast, responsive computer experience. It doesn't hinder, it doesn't prevent the computer from running, but it can hinder it from running as well as it could run. So that's why it's important to me. I also like to see a lot more icons down here on that bottom right system tray. So I right click, I go to taskbar settings, and this just gives me something to do while I'm waiting on updates. I'm going to click OK on this for now, and I'm going to turn this off and this off. And then I come down here to other system tray icons, and I want to see the security status. That should not be hidden from me. I want to see my Bluetooth device settings. That should not be hidden from me. I want to see the AMD Adrenalin application to remind me it's there. And I also want to know my Windows Update status. So everything they've turned off, I want on. And the one thing they turn on is Microsoft OneDrive that isn't in here anymore because we uninstalled it. That's how far disconnected Microsoft is from the needs of the users, or at least my users. Now, we do need to reboot, but this would be a good time to kill two birds with one stone. Look, these came back. Uninstall that. Right click, uninstall that one. They only come back during certain Windows updates. They don't just randomly come back, all right? This is a consequence of the action we've taken of getting updates. And now I'm going to go back over to apps. I'm going to look for that remote desktop connection. Again, it is a potential security risk to have that installed. So we're just going to remove it. I don't know anybody who uses it outside of corporate IT. So good riddance. If we want remote desktop, we'll use some software like Instant House Call, UltraViewer, Rust Desk, Remote PC, etc., etc. So with that, let's reboot. Now remember, we're going to be installing or finishing the installation of those updates. So again, we're not getting a true restart time because normally when you start or restart the computer, it's not going through the processes of a first boot, and it's not going through, for example, the finishing the installation of updates. Once that's done, your boot up time should be much, much faster. And then on occasion, when you're installing or removing or getting updates, your boot up time will take a little longer that one time. And that's universally true across all computers. And it always has been, going back to when Windows Update was available. So don't be worried the computer takes a little longer to start than you're expecting until you get everything updated. Then see if it meets your expectations, because after it processes everything, it should be much faster from that point forward. Same is true with a tablet. Same is true with your Android phone. When you get that big Android update, your phone restart might take a little while, but then after that, restarting your phone happens much, much quickly on a regular basis. So as that runs, let me jump back over to our chat room and see what I'm missing. Oh, good. Ask Your Computer Guy is blue. Very good. He says, at least there's no mystery driver to hunt down. I like the mystery driver hunts. What's wrong with that? Don't you like to have fun? He says, it's officially tequila time. Bye to all. Enjoy the stream. Well, have a shot of, let's see, what tequila? I would say have a shot of Patron Silver or Blanco on me. Make sure it's ice cold, otherwise it's nasty. And don't mix that in a margarita. That is sacrilegious. Use the cheap Sauza tequila for mixing. You get that Don Julio, that Cabo Wabo, that Patron, that is sipping tequila. All right, just had to put that rule down. He says you're weird. Oh, you must be new here. All right, let me get back over to camera 2 as I crack myself up full screen once again. And I'm going to click on Start button, and we're going to just check Windows updates. You know me. Thorough. Get us up to date. Now, we've seen some computers that have come in with 22H2, where it wants the huge update to 23H2, and then another huge update to 24H2. It takes hours. So one of the benefits of getting the latest model, of course, is it'll have whatever operating system version was on at the time they created the computer. So when you're looking for an older model of computer that's brand new, but it was, you know, say a 12th gen Intel made 2 years ago, that's brand new in inventory on Amazon and you're attracted by that price, be prepared to potentially have to spend some time getting it updated from the operating system that came out the year after the computer did, which would be, let's say, 22H2 to 23H2, and then a year after that, 24H2, and then coming up this fall, we'll have 25H2. But hey, you saved a lot of money, and once you do it once, make a backup, a system image backup, you'll never have to do that again. It's worth it, and you can save a lot of money that way. But you should not have to do that on a brand new specification of computer. Like the CPU did not exist last year. So that's why we're not going to have last year's operating system on it. Does that make sense? I hope so. Let's see what the Windows security is complaining about. We got a splat. Speaking of ask your computer guy. Let's see, it wants us to sign in. I don't want to sign in. It wants us to turn on browser control. I don't know why it's asking. Of course I want to turn on browser control. And then it said something else. What is it? Sign in with a Microsoft account. There we go again with that nonsense. I'm going to dismiss that. Now that should be happy down here. That's why I don't want this hidden from me. Also, we can double click right here on our AMD Adrenalin and see if we're running the latest version. So we're going to skip this. Now you should see a version up here. If you don't, you have an older version of AMD Adrenalin. Just go and download, Google search AMD Adrenalin, download it from AMD and install it. It's free. And then you will now have the current version with the check for update. Here it says manage updates. It's already saying it's the current version. Let's see, manage updates. What does it do? Automatically keep updates. Why isn't that automatically checked? Chipset drivers look like they've been updated. Well, I'll take them. Okay. That's new. I haven't gone through this myself. See how the chipset drivers are part of this whole Adrenalin experience. So somewhere I am missing where you download or see that option. Because like I said, I just did this last night on a different machine. And I was puzzled when the AMD Adrenalin install only seemed to install the graphics drivers and not the chipset drivers, when I thought it did both. So something's changed, or I'm not paying close enough attention. It's just something I don't deal with in Intel's world. Well, Intel does not provide their chipset drivers automatically either. I guess what I'm saying poorly is I'm used to the process with Intel. I've not gotten accustomed to the routine with AMD, but they may not be that different. I just thought before that AMD made this a lot easier through one app. And it seems like sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. So now I'm guessing there's a checkbox somewhere that I'm missing that should be defaulted on, if that's the case. All right, let's get back over to our Windows update and see what it's doing. Oh, so we have this big cumulative update. Now this 5055627 makes some pretty big changes on the operating system. This is about a 4 gig Windows update. It's big. I think 3.8 gig download. And it makes some changes to how the file explorer looks and such. So it's not a bad thing, and I'm not suggesting that you avoid it or anything like that. But this is going to take a while to download and then install because it's massive. It's a shame Microsoft doesn't give us file sizes on these updates. So apparently the red is Adrenalin and the black is chipset. I don't know. It says it's installed. It wants to restart. I don't want to restart just yet because we have an update going on, but the update may require the restart. If this update fails, then that's because it's waiting on the other update we just did before it will. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. Depends on what update from Windows and what update on software. It's not uncommon to see a failure that basically you just restart, do it again, and it works. So I'm just curious what this is going to do. So we'll keep an eye on it. In the meantime, let's go back over to camera 1. And Ray tells Ask Your Computer Guy to have a tequila for him as well. Well, he's going to be on the floor. Thanks for hanging out with us, Scott. Always good to see you. Eugene Eldago says hello. And I see Buster's still with us, staying up late with us. Right on. Thanks, Buster. I want to look back again at the models of chips, because now I can't remember. If we go back over to Minisforum and capture the window here, there it is. So looking at the AI X1, we have the 260. So what flavors was this offered in? Cherry, grape, and orange. So we're right in the middle. We've got the, that's what I thought. No, wait a minute. I think, yeah. So the Ryzen 9 or the AI 9, that is the Mac Daddy, the big expensive CPU. The Ryzen 7 255 is your entry level on this. By the way, when I say entry level, I'm talking about between a Ryzen 7 260 and a Ryzen 9 or an AI 9 365. So this is still very, very respectable of a processor. It does appear the 260 is out and 365 is out. It's only the 255 that's expected to ship in a couple weeks. So the 255 is going to be just slightly slower, slightly less capable than a 260. They're very similar. And in the AI 9 365 is just your flagship on the processor line. And remember, I've got this with RAM selected here. Keep in mind, Minisforum is one of the few companies that will sell you the machine without RAM or storage, because many of you want much more RAM or faster RAM and much more storage and or faster storage. You're going to replace it anyway, so why buy it twice? Just take the price off of the unit and put your own in. So if you wanted this, for example, you're under $400 on a brand new modern computer. That's medium priced, but actually comes in on the low side of the high end for what you're getting in exchange with regards to processing power, ports, and capability. That's an incredible value. I don't care if you think I'm a shill. I don't care if you think I'm getting paid. I am just telling you flat out, my honest opinion is that's an incredible value. If you don't want to mess putting your own RAM and storage in, you know, it's not that much more for them. It's actually less money to buy your RAM and storage from them, because you're not going to get the fastest of either. And most human beings can't notice it anyway. So if you have 1 terabyte of storage that's running at 4,000 megabytes per second or 8,000 megabytes per second, it's literally milliseconds of performance difference that most people will experience. It's just your benchmarks that people get all caught up in benchmark results. But with each model, you'll notice that there's different variations of configuration that you can get. 2-year warranty, and they offer 30-day refund and return, and they accept PayPal, which PayPal offers credit, and you can pay, I think it's anything over $100, you have 6 months interest free. So if you pay the whole thing off within 6 months, they don't charge you any interest, but you must pay it to zero. So for example, if we were to buy this, and let's just say it's $600, just to make the math easy, we go to PayPal. With PayPal credit, we pay the $600. We get the unit when it's released. We pay $100 a month for 6 months, and it didn't cost us any more. We're also building up our credit rating because that's reported here in the States. And $100 a month, that's not so bad for just 6 months, and now it's yours to own forever. But if you have to go to month 7, all that interest from the previous 6 months adds up, and you're going to owe all that interest. So the question is, do you want to pay more for it? And do you want it today? And, you know, if you think you can do that, it's just an option that should be available to you. You can apply for that credit on PayPal, and it's not that difficult to get approved. They're not as finicky as American Express. This processor, or the one that they're, I guess this is under the configuration we picked. I should make sure we're on the right one up here. We're on the 260. And the specs for the 260 should then flow below. Yeah, this is the 260. 8 cores, 16 threads, 38 trillion operations per second on the AI, on the neural processing unit, or the NPU, which most processors, most CPUs do not have an NPU. Only the latest ones. And even then, the higher end latest ones. So Zen 4 architecture, I wish I could control this scrolling. 16 meg L3 cache. Let's keep scrolling down. That's what it looks like on the inside. There's your standard SODIMM memory sockets, dual channel. Oh, it mentions how silent it is, and now I haven't even thought about it. I can hear it running, but it's very, very quiet. I could barely hear it. So that's a good thing that I haven't even brought that up this whole stream, because I forgot. It's so, you know, it's quiet. It's not asking for attention. So that's a good thing. There's sort of an exploded view of how it's put together. 2 USB 4 ports, one in the front, one in the back. Love that it supports 4 screens. And power delivery also. So with a Minisforum portable monitor, you could run, you know, you run power to the mini PC, you plug that into the wall, but then you take your USB-C or your USB 4 Type-C out of the mini and into one of these USB-C powered portable monitors, and now the monitor has power and display right through that one cable. Then you combine that with a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse or a wireless keyboard and mouse, you're good to go. It's darn near as portable as a laptop without a battery. And likely much cheaper for the amount of, you know, power you're getting. All right, enough of that. Let's get back over to, let's see, desktop. How are we doing? If it still says downloading, it may be stuck. Now, this is a 4 gig download here. So it is going to be taking a while, but we have a fast internet. So I suspect this will eventually start to do something, but if I restart this, likely we'll see that download progress much faster. And it may be because it's waiting for the other install to like clear. I don't know. I've seen this a few times on this update with other machines, so it's not specific to this machine. It's nothing to worry about. So that Elgato that you're seeing on the screen, that's my capture card. And as soon as this reboots and does its power on self-test or post, we should see that Minisforum logo, and we do. Once again, we're still finishing updates like with the AMD chipset driver, so this still may not be our accurate boot up time. This still may be taking a little bit longer. Until we get everything situated the way we like it, don't expect it to operate at peak performance till we're done. Let's go back to Windows Update. It should say we still need that update, and we should see this progress much, much quicker. But keep in mind, we're still loading items down on the system tray, right? I don't see the AMD logo down there yet. And that can take a moment. I think it delays the launch. So it's no indication of a slow machine because of that. That's just typical on any machine. And then when it's done loading everything, and it's not multitasking and it focuses solely on this, we will likely see that number start to move, hopefully, as it retrieves the download from Microsoft servers. But it's a 4 gig download. So I think what I'll do is I'll put camera 1 in a corner, and then we can do both at the same time. Keep an eye on it, just to verify if my suspicions hold true here. All right, let me take a look over at the chat room. Pixelbyte says hello from Greece. Right on, welcome in. We've got Scotland and Ireland and Sweden and Norway and Greece and America and Canada and England, in Northern Ireland, all in the house. The Netherlands joining us. This is so awesome. I hope you guys are having a great Friday. I hope you're having as much fun as I am. I've been looking forward to reviewing this for some time. I love the idea that you're getting the bulk of what you get on the Pro model for nearly half the price. I just was curious, am I going to notice it? Because I definitely noticed it on the AI X1 Pro. Immediately I fell in love with this. This thing, you click your mouse and it's so fast you think it's reading your mind. This one, it's fast, but I'm not getting that same feeling. On the other hand, it's also several $100 cheaper. But one can be hopeful. It's no slouch. This thing is super fast, all right? But this should wear a cape. I'm just saying. Let's get back over here. Now, if you have any questions for me, this is the time to ask as we're waiting for things to progress here. Certainly happy to answer any questions you have, preferably related to this or other mini PCs, but pretty much ask what you want. If I can answer it, I will. And the other members in our chat room are also very tech savvy and have a lot of answers. I'm not the only one with answers. Sometimes, more often than I like to admit, their answers are better than mine. So don't dismiss or watch for answers in the chat because, yeah, all of those reasons. We have a great community here, and we hope if you're watching our video live, you join us in the chat. If you're watching this video after it airs, like right now, it's 2:30 p.m. in Phoenix, Arizona on Friday, May the 2nd, 2025. If you're watching this after that, like in an hour or two, you're watching a recorded live session. And you will not be able to participate in the chat. If you watch us live, you can join us in the chat. And as long as you're nice, you're welcome to stay in there and join us indefinitely in every video. It's a very low bar. Just be nice. Some people can't be. It's just not within their capabilities. And it's beyond our capabilities to help them. They're the only ones not welcome. All you have to do is pop into the chat and say hello. That's it. Watch what happens automatically after that. Kindness brings kindness. And we'd love to interact. I personally love to interact with everybody in the community, whether I recognize you or I don't. Even if you just say hello, I love it. Let us know where you're watching from. I'm also tickled by how I can be broadcasting all over the world from sitting here at my bench, essentially. This would have cost $12 a minute back in the 1980s. And it would have been glitchy, and the video would have been the size of a postage stamp. I'm just saying. Buster's saying goodnight. Hey, Buster, thanks for hanging out with us. Thank you for all your generosity and support. Buster is like no other. Darren says hello from Trinidad. Right on. Thanks for joining us, Darren. David Herzog joining us from Milford, Ohio. Not too far from where I grew up, born and raised in Detroit. People that are regulars here know that about me. You take the boy out of Detroit, but it's really hard to take the Detroit out of the boy. Is that still sitting at 0%? I can't read it. Aaron Werner says he's watching from Jacksonville, Florida, and he's glad to be on here. Jim Kenny from Kingston, Ontario, Canada. Very cool. I guess I left Canada out of my country list. That was not on purpose. Growing up in Detroit, it's very common to think of Canada as part of the United States. You're always going over there, you know. We didn't have to show passports back then. All right, let's see. Yeah, it still says it's just sitting here. What I can do, sometimes that can, this always does eventually start to kick up. But I can kind of light a fire under it by what I found is if it gets stuck, it being Windows Update, unplug your internet cable and then plug it back in. Because right now, see, look at it says 6%. I'm not even plugged in. You can't make this up. So I'm going to plug it back in. Microsoft's got something funky going on, and it's not specific to this computer. How is it downloading when it's not plugged in? I don't understand. So it's at 8% now. Now it's going to resynchronize back with the update servers and say, okay, here's what I got. Here's what I need. It doesn't start at 0 again. It could. Usually it will just continue on more rapidly. I don't understand that. And it's so funny to me that, you know, we're shooting live, unscripted, unrehearsed, and it's already done. It went from 8% to 100%. So something with this update isn't reporting progress correctly. It is a 4 gig update. It installs going to take a while. This is a modern, brand new machine. It's going to take a while. So it's only going to take longer on an older machine. But like any other Windows update, highly recommended, worth having, and shouldn't procrastinate. You don't have to stop everything you're doing to get Windows updates, but maybe at the end of the day, when you're done, just check for updates, get it out of the way. That way it doesn't interrupt you if you've got automatic updates turned on, and say, you know, with those checkboxes that I select under the advanced options of Windows Update, it'll interrupt you with a pop-up and say, do you want to restart? And if you're typing when that happens and you accidentally hit the restart before you've even realized what happens, then it shuts the computer down and restarts it. So if you can control that by simply checking Windows Update at the end of, you know, you're done with the computer, let it check. It could take a little bit. You don't have to stare at it. Go do something else. Whatever it is you were going to do, start that. Then just kind of take a look at the progress. If it finds an update it wants to restart, just go ahead and restart it or shut it down. And get it out of the way. So, let that continue and see what else you guys have to say in the chat room. Kevin McNeil said, does Task Manager help to see if the download froze? No, it's typically not the application that's freezing. It's the Windows servers on the other side becoming non-responsive. There's nothing we can really do on this side but try to force a reconnection to the Microsoft server, which I did by taking it offline and bringing it back online again. Of course, restarting the computer could have that effect as well, maybe. It's me being impatient. If I leave it alone, it will eventually get its turn in the queue. But this kind of kicks us back to the front again. And I don't know how long it's been like this with other updates, but this has been going on from my experience for over a year now, where there are certain updates that seem to be stuck during downloading at 0%. And if I ignore them, and I mean ignore them, I mean for a good hour or two, it does seem that they kick back up and install at some point in the 2 hours, because I'll come back and check on it every half hour or so, maybe every hour, and I see it's already done. When did it get done? 2 minutes after I walked away or 2 minutes before I came back? I don't know. So if I don't want to walk away and I want this to happen now, that's something you can try. It won't hurt anything. The best thing I can tell you is if Task Manager would have helped, I would have used it. So think about what I'm doing, but also think about what I'm not doing and think about why. Mark Leibowitz said, I'm replacing a laptop's LCD panel. Who knew you could have so much fun with screen adhesive? Better you than me, man. Charlie Purdy pops in, says hello in our chat room. He says, I am late for the party. Oh, don't worry, Charlie. We've been waiting for you. Now the party can be started. Dwayne Blackwelder says to Aaron Werner that he is also in Jacksonville, Florida. What are the odds of that? How cool. The budding of a new friendship of neighbors who never knew they were neighbors and met in an online chat room during a YouTube video by some nerd in Phoenix. This is a crazy world, isn't it? Greg says Windows is doing a local cache with other customers' computers. No, Windows doesn't do that. I think you're mistaken. Windows can, as an option, provide the cache to local systems. In other words, if I have other computers on this network, my personal network, then I can speed up the Windows Update download by locally sourcing those files on my own network. It doesn't help my bandwidth or time to pull it from somebody else's, and that's a major security risk. Microsoft is not using BitTorrent to separate out their Windows updates. And I think if you go back wherever you got that information and read it a little closer, I think you misinterpreted the difference between caching on a local network and caching over the internet. Now, if I'm wrong on that, please send me the link. But I feel pretty strongly that this is the only way that makes sense without it being a security concern. And it's an option that can be turned on or turned off. Mark Leibowitz said, setting up these PCs is a dream. I just did one last night, initialized with a local account, got the latest AMD drivers, got Windows 11 24H2, and went to grab dinner while 24H2 installs. There you go. I've done that many times. Because whether or not Windows 24H2 takes a half an hour or an hour and a half, what do I care? I turn the monitor off, I go to dinner. I don't even think about it. I come back home, I think, oh, eventually, not always when I walk in the door, it occurs to me, I forgot I had 24H2 installing. Turn the monitor back on, it's waiting on a restart. Oftentimes it ticks down from a 30-minute timer, and if you don't click it, it automatically restarts the computer, and in many times it's already happened. So the Windows Update window's gone, and I'm just at a blank desktop, and I go to System and I check it. It says 24H2. So I didn't even have to wait for the updates to continue during the reboot. Then I just go back to Windows Update again, and any remaining updates, like this one here, this is an unusually large one. Once again, I know it's a big update. Set that, go turn the monitor off, go do what I was going to do anyway after dinner. And then, after a while, probably scrolling around YouTube or watching a movie, struggling my way through Star Wars Andor Season 2, trying not to fall asleep. It's so boring. Never happy. Didn't like Acolyte. Didn't like Skeleton Crew. Andor's too boring. Yeah, it's called Star Wars. Where are the stars and where are the wars? I don't know what this is. This is like Blade Runner. It's just slow camera pans and thoughtful music as people walk around and do stuff with no dialogue. What is this? It's moody. Blade Runner is also moody. It doesn't mean it's bad, but that's not wars and stars. It's politics. It's like some kind of Dune meets Blade Runner. I don't know what's happening here. It's only 10 episodes. I'm on episode 4. I'm going to watch it, but I struggle to stay awake. Then suddenly I say, you know, I've got to move because I'm going to fall asleep. Oh, I was installing a Windows Update. That's probably done, and I'll come and check it out. That's how I do it, Mark. That is an accurate assessment and play-by-play of specifically last night's updates. The only time I sit here and stare at updates is when I'm live on camera and we're waiting to do the next thing. But I want to remind you, if you have questions about the mini PC, please ask. I'll do my best to provide answers. Or if you have other unrelated questions, but still tech questions, I'll do my best to answer those too and make the most of this time we have sort of stalling, waiting for this to finish. But this is that important to me, and I hope getting Windows updates is as important to you. And don't listen to the hobbyists and enthusiasts who tell you not to. Don't listen to the security experts who don't work in the security industry. Don't listen to the researchers who don't work and are held accountable for the results of their research, the consequences. I'm telling you, be very careful who you take advice from online. There are those of us that work in this industry that are held to a higher standard, because when we do something and it affects somebody negatively, it impacts us negatively as a result. We are held responsible for that. But if I'm just a hobbyist having a good time making videos, I hold no accountability to anybody. And if I claim to be a security expert just because I study up on it, but I've not really put anything into practice outside of my own needs, I've not listened to what unique customer needs customers have and what unique security challenges they have, how do I verify I'm the expert I claim to be? So should you be taking advice from that person? That doesn't mean they're wrong, but how are they testing their knowledge against anybody else's needs but their own before advising you on what you should do? Based on what? If you don't help anybody else and you're not held accountable for anybody else's security needs, but you claim to be a security expert, how do you measure that? Compared to what? Compared to yourself? I guess you're great. So that's why it's important to me when I bring guests on, whether it's Ask Your Computer Guy, if it's Doug Betts, I want to get Mike's unboxing reviews and how-to on here. I want to talk to the people in the industry, not used to be in the industry, the people that are in the industry right now dealing with the challenges that we face, and trust me, my customers all have different challenges. And I have my own challenges. So if you took all my customers away and it was just me, I'd be a hobbyist. And I can assure you, I would know exactly everything I wanted to know. Okay. But the minute you put paying customers onto my responsibility, onto my shoulders, I have to know things I don't necessarily personally care about, other than this is how I solve this issue with my customer. And that gives me a more rounded experience overall, based on a variety of different client needs and budgets and strategies and challenges. And the more of that I get, the more accountability I have. And the more I can verify if my solutions the customers are paying me for are solving their problems, versus just telling a random audience around the world to do stuff, and if their building catches on fire, I'll never know. I don't even know who these people are. And they didn't pay me, so I don't owe them anything. How do you trust people with this kind of information that can completely destroy your data intentionally or unintentionally? Or it can have consequences 6 months down the line from a change they suggested you made in your Windows registry or services. You cannot hold them accountable. But if you paid somebody to do that, then you can hold them accountable. And then they'd be less likely to be so daredevilish with your stuff. So I'm advising you, be very cautious over the advice you get online and consider the source. It's your consequences one way or the other. So I just want you to have a good experience. You know, one of my favorite questions that I like to ask the so-called self-proclaimed experts is, who are you? Are you somebody in the industry? What industry are you in? How long have you been in that industry? Interesting. And what is it you do for a living? I see. Now, if any of those answers are none of your business, I don't want to take advice from that person. Frank Jimmy says, hello, Uncle Carey and Auntie Marlena, and everyone in chat, just stopping in to say hello. Hey, Frank, thanks for popping in. Charlie Purdy said the UM890 Pro is running great. I just have to pry it out of my wife's hands. That's cool. See, you don't have to be a nerd. I'm assuming your wife is not. Most females are not nerds. There are some. But if a regular non-techie person, and I'm making some assumptions here, stereotypes, can enjoy the tech so much they don't want to give it up, that is a big win for the tech company that developed that tech. Mecha Cameron saying he watched the Google's certificate video playlist. I'm an expert. Yeah. Well, look, in the industry here, we're all self-proclaimed. There is no tech diploma. You can get certifications, which is a business. You pay for them. They're not giving them out for free. That is a separate business. Just like colleges aren't getting you jobs. They're selling you an education for you to then go and get a job with. Whether or not that helps you get a job is debatable, depending on the field of work. So in IT, we don't even have that. You just say you're a tech and you are one. And it's up to the consumer to then judge, does this person seem like they know what they're talking about? Are they reasonably priced? And if you're going to give them a shot, you know, first of all, do you have any friends that referred you to this person? How did you hear about this person? Just online? Be cautious. Don't invest too much. Wait and see the kind of work they do. And then proceed accordingly. You know, if the work takes too long or isn't complete or they have to keep coming back, maybe don't use them anymore. Sometimes, and I realize it's sort of an ageism thing, but if I'm looking at a so-called expert and that expert is older, they clearly have 15, 20 years or more of experience in any industry, especially a doctor or a surgeon, I'm going to want that older person. But that may be because I'm an older person now. But I've always felt, oh, look, we're ready for a restart. I've always felt that nobody can be 25 years old and have 15 years of experience equivalencies. No. And I've had many young people, even when I was much younger, I remember a 20-year-old telling me as a 40-year-old that I don't know the challenges in his life, and therefore he could have the same experience that I have in 40 years in his 20. And I was explaining to him, time doesn't work like that. Absolutely not. You'll have different experiences, and you may have a little bit more of a category of experience, but you will not, under any circumstances, get 40 years of experience in 20 years of life. Unless you've figured out how to compress time, it's just metaphysically not possible. It can't be done. And he just thought, you don't know what you're talking about. And I said, that is the conclusion of youth, and you just proved my point. And so, you know, he went around thinking in his head, I'm the equivalent of a 40-year-old because of the challenges I faced in my life. And I went around going, this guy's delusional. So, you know, a nice guy, by the way. And if I was his age, maybe I'd think the same thing, right? I've had it rough and I've had challenge. We've all had it rough. What do you think? I just skated through? Things were handed to me? Yeah. If that were the case, you probably wouldn't even know I exist because I'd be out on my yacht right now. One of my many yachts. Time to make videos for people. So sometimes age can also play a role, but that doesn't mean there's not older hobbyists and enthusiasts. Scott wants to know, Carey, do you think future Windows operating systems will be made to run on AI-compatible computers only? Yes. Well, I think it's going to be required because the software companies of the programs you use are going to require it, even games. Their NPCs and even the game itself may rely on AI, which can reduce the amount of code that's written and offer a different gaming experience every single time you replay the game. It's just a matter of time. I don't know when, but it's coming. For sure. I have no doubt about that. Luke Greenia says, a little off topic, but here's a small update. Project Zero and the Ace Magic TK1 mini PC are still going strong with absolutely no problems. I love hearing that, Luke. Thank you for letting me know. In my line of work, people call me when there's a problem. Every once in a while, I get a call from somebody that just says, and it's funny because I'll psych myself up. I see the caller ID and I go, here we go. Hey, Carey. Yeah, hey, it's so-and-so. How are you? I'm good, thanks. How are you? Hey, listen, I was just calling to tell you this computer you built me is amazing. And I just wanted you to know that I really appreciate it. And it's the best computer I've ever owned. Well, that's awesome. Are you having any trouble with anything? Nothing at all. I says, you're just calling me to tell me everything's working great? That's it. Wow. I don't have a pre-planned response for that. Thank you. So thank you, Luke. I'm sure Mark Leibowitz knows what I'm talking about in the industry. Juan the Panda said, I haven't tuned in for the last few years and I just started watching again. I see you feature these mini PCs more than I remember. Do you recommend these PCs now over regular towers? Yeah, Juan, it depends on what your need is. So we covered that back in the beginning of the video. If you want to use the DVR mode, you can rewind this video back. And I talk about the different styles and budgets of these mini PCs and what they can do, and when it may be, best for somebody to stick with a tower. So there's not a one-size-fits-all answer to that. It really depends on what the needs of the customer and the budget of the customer are. But thanks for tuning back in. Mecha Cameron said, as a former line cook, I am not used to good reviews. Well, just because you were a line cook doesn't mean you were a good one. I don't know. You might be a great line cook. I have no idea. I'm just trying to be funny with the keyword on trying. Now, it looks like that update is finally finished installing. And one of the things I noticed right out of the gate with this update is when I click on the My Computer icon, the Windows Explorer, I get some options for like most recent files versus favorite files versus, well, no, it's still installing. Never mind. When it's done, I'll show you. We'll see if I can demonstrate what I'm describing. And I just noticed this last night. That's how fresh this information is. Let me go to, let's turn off camera one. Let me go to the desktop over here. And that should be the last of our updates anyway. But if I go to the yellow folder down here, usually there's like suggestions or recommendations. I thought it was in here. Up here. Go to PC. Well, that's where it took us, this PC. On the computer, on the laptop that I'm using, I got like 3 suggestion boxes down here. Or options for suggestions. I can't remember what they were now. And I'm also realizing I have not plugged in my utilities flash drive and measured the performance of the internal drive. So let's do that now. Plugging my flash drive in. And with my flash drive, let's grab the standard things that I test machines with. I always like to put VLC on, but I can load that right from the flash drive. I don't need to copy it over. That replaces the media player I uninstalled from Microsoft. And while that's installing, let's grab Uncle Carey's Windows 10 optimizer that works on Windows 11. I also want those Windows 11 24H2 fixes that helps me browse my network. What you'll notice when I go to browse the network on a brand new computer, and I realized I didn't finish copying everything over. But if I click on the yellow folder and I want to search my network, the first thing it tells me is that network discovery and file sharing are disabled. So I click on this up here and choose turn on, and it says, do you want to turn on network discovery and file sharing for all public networks? Well, by default, I'm on a public network because that's the secure thing to do on a brand new computer. But I'm not on a public network. I'm in my house on a private network. So no, make the network I'm connected to a private network. Okay, great. Now it's going to show me everything it can see on my network. There's our Synology. If I double click on the Synology, it says it can't access it, even though I've got access fully open. Well, that's because, and there's my Galaxy Book, my laptop, and there's the ProArt from Mara, and this is the machine we're working on right now. And Red Streamer, well, guess what that is? That's the streaming computer. That's our whole network right there, or at least I'm showing you. But that's default, right? I haven't done anything special. But Microsoft instituted some new security policies because the internet's just becoming more and more horrible. So let's get VLC out of the way. And I've learned these little PowerShell tricks here that I've saved in Notepad. And I just highlight this one right here, this first one. Right click and go to copy. Come down here and type in PowerShell or PowerS. And then right here, it says run as administrator. Yes. And yes. Then I press Control V to paste what I just copied and press enter. And then it's going to ask me if I'm sure. And I'm going to say Y for yes. Then I go to the second one. And one of these is basically turning off SMB client signing. And the second one here turns off the did I just hit a key? Sorry, I'm confused. Let me close this and reopen it. It doesn't look right to me. Don't save it. Yeah, I changed something. Let me reopen that file again, because this re-enables guest default logon. Yeah, there. Highlight that, right click, copy, and then I'm done with this, so I can close it and get rid of it. Come down here, Control V to paste that and enter. Yes. And then I type exit, E-X-I-T. Now, check this out. Without a reboot, I can go back to my network. I can go to the NAS. Oh, I've got access now. Isn't that cool? So that's where I see what Microsoft did there. I see why they did it. The internet is nasty, and we have to keep putting more locks and alarms on everything. And that workaround just isn't easy to know. But you don't have to get into all networking details. If you leave things alone, that's all you have to do to get a computer on a network at your home, or even a small business running peer-to-peer. You don't have to get into all these settings unless you previously started playing with them, and now we have to undo everything you did, and we don't know what that is, and that can take an hour to undo everything the customer did. But if you leave it alone and you just follow Uncle Carey's simple steps before guessing, then we don't have to undo all your guesswork. That's the part that takes a long time. If you just leave it alone, it's just a couple clicks and all the problems go away, and networking is very easy. All right. We did check this already, right? We were on the latest version. Yeah, up to date. Very good. I was copying over what we can run. I guess we can run Cinebench on this, so I'll copy over CPU-Z just in case I want to check on specs. I'll copy over Cinebench R23. We'll copy over Crystal Disk Info and Crystal Disk Mark, both portable. All of these are free. Just Google search if you want them. I always download the zip files. Those are the portable versions. I don't install anything on my customers' computers other than Windows updates and my optimizer. Speaking of which, let me go ahead and run the optimizer and get that over with. Yes, apply. These access denieds are normal. It's just turning off indexing to files that are in use. Nothing to be worried about. This machine, it's all going to happen very quickly, and then we reboot for everything to take effect. It's doing a lot more than just turning off indexing too. And it's an intelligent utility in that if we try and run the utility again, it'll say, you've already run this, all your settings are at the recommended defaults. It checks the registry settings, and we're not modifying anything that is outside of Microsoft standard parameters. We're not working around a shortcut or a loophole. That's the stuff that'll bite you in the butt. Just turn off all these security services and your games will run faster. Worst advice ever. Craig Sutton said you should put Uniget UI on your flash. I have no idea what that is. Somehow I've gotten through a 34-year career without it. So, really? I don't know what it is, though. So it's pretty easy for me to dismiss what I'm not aware of. Let me go back to full screen over here. Let's run Crystal Disk Mark here. I want to make sure everything has a chance to load. And then we can measure our drive performance. First of all, I'm kind of curious who makes the drive. Oftentimes they're Kingston, but sometimes we see names from companies we've never heard of. CT, that's crucial, isn't it? It's a 1 terabyte drive, and it's in, what mode is it in? PCIe. Yeah, so it's a PCIe 4 drive in a PCIe Gen 4 slot with 4 channels. Perfect. It's been powered on somehow 678 times, which seems excessive on a brand new machine. For 120 hours, well, it's only been powered on for 2 hours. So I don't know what they're doing in the factory that took 118 hours and 670 reboots. Or power on. That's not reboots, that's power ons. That feels like a used drive, but very lightly used, but more than normal. That's weird. Fair to say that this is likely a pre-production model and not what you would get if you ordered one. All right, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here because they've never done anything sketchy before, and I mean that. It's not sarcasm. They have a solid reputation, and they do warn, like on the box, it does say this is for review purposes, so it may not be identical to what you get. So don't let that freak you out. All right, we're going to run Crystal Disk Mark. I expect about 5,000 out of this thing. It's not likely going to be 7,300 on the high end of Gen 4. Yeah, so we're exactly where typical mini PC manufacturers go for budget and performance. If they put the high performance drive in, you got to deal with the excess heat, and you've got to charge more for the device. And if you go too slow, then you got people that won't buy it because it's Gen 3, you know. So they cut it right down the middle. If you don't like that, then you get the bare bones version and put what you want in there. All right, so while that runs, let me bring back camera 1. And of course, it's always in the way. It doesn't seem to matter. I'm always in my own way. I can move this box without interrupting it. Just move it up a little. There. Now we can see both. All right, back over to the chat. Let's see if I've missed any other questions. Frank Jimmy said he's going to dinner. Wings and hard cider are calling. Ooh, that sounds like a good dinner. Enjoy that, Frank. Mark Gain says, Carey, I was trying to send you a picture of Project Zero with the new fans, but it keeps failing to send. You should be able to send that to our, like, I don't know which email you're using, but if you're trying to reach out to us in email, please use showcasecreate@gmail.com, and you should be able to send, I'm not sure how many attachments, at least 10 megs. If you limit your attachments to no more than 10 megs in size in total, it should send. And then you just may have to send 2 or 3 emails, or reduce the size of the images to 1920 by 1080. Just open up Microsoft Paint, load your image, click resize, cut the size by, you don't have to put resolution, it'll default to percentage. Just cut it by 50%. Then file and save, and your file size will go to like 90% smaller. Then you can attach all the images, but it sounds to me like your images are too big. And we don't need, you know, an 8K image. 1920 by 1080 will do it, or just whatever default size you've got. Cut it by 50%, resave it, and just watch the size of the file before and after to see how amazing the difference that makes. And you won't notice it on a standard screen. It still looks the same. It's only when you zoom in and you want to get into the details that those really high-res images can be really beneficial, but we're not. I don't think I need to zoom in that much, do I? So it should look fantastic and probably solve the sending issue. Also, check the spelling of the email address. Sometimes people get the E and the A backwards, or there's a typo in there, so just carefully look at each letter and make sure it's spelled correct. And that's open for all of you. Showcasecreate@gmail.com is how you can reach out to us. Pixelbyte said, back in the day, I remember an ASUS JJ review, the ASUS Rampage version 1.0 edition X99, very good video. I love working with JJ. I love, you know, the thing for me is trying to make JJ laugh. He's always so serious all the time. So my goal was to crack him up. I had a good time with that. And he's crackable. Mark Liebowitz said, age equals experience, so maybe Crucial's just trying to make their solid state drive look venerable. No, I'm pretty sure Crucial didn't do that. That's something Minisforum's factory did, or their developers did. This could be a very early copy, and for all we know, this could be the one the system image was made from or with that ended up being the system image they use on the factory floor. We could have that very model. For all I know, it could happen, because I can't think of any other reason why that would have so many reboots on it. Pixelbyte, can I send my PC with Cosmos 2008 case with Rampage 79? Send it where? Juan the Panda said, if it's a review sample, you need to return. No, I don't need to return it, so I guess I don't need to finish reading that. Sending anything back to China, it's always been very cost prohibitive. China has had these excessive tariffs on the United States for a long time. I don't know what you guys thought I've been talking about for the last few years, but I've been saying this for years. When you order something from AliExpress, you might as well plan on keeping it, because even if they offer you the ability to return it, it's likely going to cost you more in postage than the thing is you paid for. We talked about it again when we had that that weird computer that came out. What was it called? The weird little mini PC. And they were doing like a Kickstarter on it, and it was profoundly expensive, exceptionally difficult to work on, and the one they sent me didn't work. And I said, well, what do I do, right? What if I'm a customer and this is a warranty issue, or you got to send it back to China? Well, it's like $300 to send this mini PC, which was like a $600 mini PC, back to China. How are you going to honor warranty? And this company sent these units out to all these reviewers who were like, yeah, I'll take a free computer for a review. Oh, this thing's great. Here's how you take it apart, with no comment about how difficult it is to take apart, how limited it is on the upgrade. And I would leave a comment on those videos, and I would say, well, the reason I was a little nasty was they got nasty with me. Very unprofessional. Their Chinese culture was not adopting to American business culture, and apparently they felt it was appropriate to talk to me in such a way. So I let these other reviewers know, you omitted some critical information in your review, such as, if you have a in-warranty issue with that mini PC that cost all that money, how do you get it resolved? Answer me that. And secondly, if you order it from this company, how many weeks will you have to wait before it arrives? There's no US support at all. Maybe just disclose that. I'm not saying that's bad, but the fact that you didn't mention it suggests it never occurred to you. Because you can tell me the warranty is 2 years, but if it's $300 to send the unit back to China for warranty work, what happens if I never get it back? And how long does it take to get to China? And how long will it take to get back to me? 6 weeks? So I think that's where the attitude's coming from on the political side, is this isn't fair. We don't do that to you. So if you're wondering why I lean towards it's okay, instead of saying, darn it, everything's costing me more, it's because it's been costing us more sending anything, trying to sell anything. Can you imagine how many customers I could potentially have in China? But China's got this big wall of tariffs up, and they always have, that make it absolutely impossible to even consider them as my customer. But for China to consider us customers, we've had those walls low for a long time. So it's a one-way street. It's not fair or equal. It doesn't have to be 100% fair, but I just feel like it could be a little closer. So I'm hoping there's a good in all of this, that we just have to take our medicine and hope for the best. But yeah, you got to see it from my angle. I got a whole gigantic country I can't even sell to because they put so many tariffs on everything, right? And if I want to sell a computer without a warranty the way they do to us, why can't I? Because they had all these tariffs on it. Why would they buy it? Well, turnaround's fair play, isn't it? Isn't enough enough? I could be a multi-millionaire driving my Ferrari on my yacht if the Chinese didn't have tariffs on US imports. I cannot remember the name of that little computer, but they kind of went away. No love lost there. But it was frustrating to see these content creators review it with a positive review with no discussion of warranty. And they all pretty much said it was pretty, expensive at the time it came out. Very few people complained about how difficult it was to upgrade and how fragile it was. And nobody mentioned the warranty. I mean, nobody. Jerry Kelly says, I'm glad you recommend the cheaper computer. I got one. It's working good for me. Right on. And if you have any trouble with it, you know where to come for help. We're here. Intermute says Geekom. No, Geekom makes fine. Listen. I like Geekom. I like Minisforum. I like Ace Magic. I like B-Link. We're not talking about those guys. We're talking about a manufacturer who built one computer one time as a Kickstarter project. It was like a Ryzen something. And it was the dumbest design I'd ever seen. It was overpriced. And the way you'd honor a warranty, they sent me a unit that didn't work. They wanted me to send it back to China so they could fix it. So normally a company wouldn't do that. Normally a reputable company will say, you know what, just keep that one for donor parts. We're just going to send you another one. It's cheaper. But this company had such low funds, I guess, they could not afford to make another one. So they had made a small batch, had sent them out, and were trying to drum up a lot of money in sales. And then I guess that's the end of it. Or maybe their plan was to take the profits, reinvest to make some more. Boy, I'll tell you what, that is walking a wire. That is a tightrope to walk. And it's just Geekom and Minisforum and B-Link and Paladin and Camrui and Ace Magic and Wowie and Triku and Trigkey. They don't do that. That is some person sitting in a bedroom in an apartment somewhere in China doing everything at their keyboard. And maybe when they ship the unit back to them, that same person's going to open it up with a soldering iron and fix it themselves. That is so, what do the kids say? Sus. It's sketchy. It's unprofessional. They're trying to play with the big boys, and it's just them. And it became very clear and apparent by looking at the overall design, by looking at the price, and by looking at how they would honor the warranty. Just disconnected from reality. No consideration, or they didn't care. Who was it? Mintai says Tesla does that. Tesla does what? Pixelbyte said, I'm so confused. What score does this mini PC get on Cinebench? Well, if we haven't run Cinebench yet, how would we know that? So right now we're looking at the speed of the internal storage drive, which is pretty much standard expected from any mass-produced mini PC with a Gen 4 drive. It's not the fastest, it's not the slowest, and it's the best bang for the buck is what that is. So what I can do, and thank you for reminding me because we can run Cinebench right now. Let me go full screen over here temporarily so I can see. There we go. And we'll click on File, and we'll save these results on the desktop for future reference. I'll just type in Crystal Disk Mark. We'll save that as a JPEG, and we'll put it to the desktop. There we go. And then we can run hardware info. Take a look at our temps because this fan has been very quiet. I can just barely hear it. Well, this is different. Sensors only. Start. Oh, yeah. Come down to CPU core temp. That's APU. That's fine. Yeah. Okay, so there's our temperatures. Try and expose as much information vertically as we can, and then just move the whole thing over to the right. And then let's grab Cinebench here. This is R23. We'll kick that off. And we'll do the multi-core and single-core tests. They take 10 minutes each, and we'll see what kind of fan noise, performance numbers, and heat this generates. This is an excessive, over-the-top, unrealistic synthesized benchmark that does not represent 99.5% of the way consumers will ever use this computer. It is beyond excessive and extraordinary, and it is look, it's a torture test. It's not the type of challenge the PC would endure for this much time with this kind of a task, though there's probably someone out there, probably a handful of people that would actually do this. So when I run this test, this is by no measure any realistic expectation of how this computer would be used by you. Most of you out there watching would not have any type of project you work on that would require this intense of resource requirement for this period of time. Some of you, maybe. So the fact that it can do this outrageous, synthetic, unrealistic torture for this period of time is a measure of an absolute inhuman worst case scenario that likely would never happen. And if it can fly through this with keeping its temperatures, you know, from thermal throttling as well as keep the fan noise cool, then anything you do to it should be a cakewalk. I do hear the fan cranking up a little bit, but it's still not terrible. It's barely noticeable still, just maybe a little bit more than it was, but not excessive. It is getting louder, but again, I can notice it when I listen for it. Maximum temps on our CPU right now have hit about, what, 85, just shy of 85. And these AMD CPUs are designed to run at 95 all day long, which I disagree with, or at least the previous Ryzens. I'm not sure on the AI models, but AMD seems to think 95 is just fine. I disagree, but maybe that's just my old school methodology. And for all we know, this could be in the BIOS limited at 85. We'll have to watch it and just see what happens. But I can tell you, just watching how fast it's filling in the boxes, that's happening quite quickly. You know, watch anybody else do this or run it on your own computer. Tell me if the boxes fill in that quickly for you. That is, that's impressive. All right, let me see if I can get back over to the chat. Have I been covering this up the whole time? I'm sorry, guys. Let me get rid of that. No, I'll tell you what. Let me do this. I did not realize camera 1 has been covering that. Let me move camera 1 over here. Ugh, hate it when that happens. This is why I need to have 2 monitors, right? Because when I'm on one screen, it's covering up the other screen. So, but there you go. You can see what's going on now. My bad. Midnight Club asking my thoughts on Windows long-term service contract. So if you watch yesterday's show with Doug Betts, we talked extensively about that. Check out yesterday's show with Doug Betts. I don't think anybody should be running Windows LTSC outside of a corporate environment with an IT department, because you're only getting the bare minimum. You're getting a stripped out version of Windows that barely functions in features or benefits that a consumer would absolutely appreciate. And you're going to go without those. So if you're paid in a corporation to do work on a machine, a lot of the features that Microsoft adds don't apply to your work. And if they do, your IT department will release that themselves. I think you're better off if you're of the mindset that you know what Windows 10 LTSC is. You should not be a Windows user. You should be a Linux user. If you want to control your transmission, I think you should drive a manual transmission car. It's not an insult. It's just the wrong car for you to get an automatic and try shifting it, with paddles. It's just not the same. If you want a manual, buy a manual. And if you want a consumer-based operating system, then get a consumer-based operating system. And if you want a business operating system, then be in a business, right? Have enough licenses that you can afford an IT department to do all that stuff Microsoft is doing for the consumers that you will do for your employees through a dedicated IT department. Now, at the end of the day, it's your computer, and what I think doesn't matter. You can run Windows 3.1 for all I care. But if you want to know my opinion, I think anybody who runs Windows 10 LTSC in a home environment outside of an IT department that supports it is digging their own grave. And if you want to live that world, that's on you. If you're somebody that accepts responsibility for the decisions you make, and you realize you can't do things with your computer that your friends can because they're getting updates you're not getting, and you're okay with it, I think you'd be better off with Linux. That'll give you that control you want. You don't want a consumer operating system because LTSC is not for a consumer. It's for a corporation. And if you think that that's better, then you'll think Linux is even better. So at the end of the day, you do what you want, and what I think doesn't matter. But we talked about this in depth yesterday with Doug Betts. And if you want to hear like Doug Betts' thoughts on it and other texts, I'm not sure if we talked about it with Scott. But we did 2 interviews. We did one on Tuesday with Scott and one on Thursday with Doug, both working techs. And I think we talked about it with Scott briefly as well. If a customer reached out to me and said, I'm having a problem with my computer, and I found out they're running workstation version or an LTSC version, I cannot help them. Likely you'd get the same response from Geek Squad or any other reputable repair facility for consumers. That's an IT department problem, and I would recommend you go to your IT department. If you tell me you don't have an IT department, then I'd say, well, this operating system is not ideal for your needs. And if you wouldn't have had it, you likely wouldn't be here for the repair that we can't do because you've got it. See where I'm coming from? But anyway, what else? Zulu, yeah, XULU. That was the name of the mini PC that I'm talking about. Wintermute, got it. Yeah, Geekom did do a mini PC Kickstarter. That's true. The little mini ITX with the liquid cooling. What a unserviceable. Who did a great review on that was Der Bauer. And I agree with every concern he had. And for the price that Geekom wanted for that was excessive. I didn't think about that. Because usually what Geekom does, I may not agree with, but it's not excessive. But that one you're talking about from Geekom You know, they asked us if we wanted to review it, and we said no. And we told them, you know, it's too expensive, and we can tell by looking at it, it's too proprietary. When Der Bauer got it and showed just how proprietary it was and how the performance was not where you would expect it to be at that price for the equipment that it was stocked with, not running at its full potential, all it did was reassure me and vindicate that we made the right decision to not even introduce it to you guys. But we've introduced a lot from Geekom. We do like overall the Geekom products, as we like overall the Minisforum, but not all. You know, you saw me struggle with the Minisforum portable monitor with that cardboard stand that I folded 1,800 different ways, it felt like, for 45 minutes and still couldn't figure out how that works. That is not what I'm accustomed to from Minisforum. And I do see other monitors Minisforum offers that are portable. I'll have the metal kickstands now. Much better improved. Filament on Fire said everyone should understand that Windows 10 LTSC ISOs have not been updated since 2021. Yeah, and then the updates they are getting are bare minimum, just the absolute bare minimum of security. That's it. No features, no benefits, no improvements. It's just maintenance. That's all it is. It is the shaking the bottom of the barrel to getting the scraps out minimum, and letting the local IT department of the corporation fill in those gaps. Without that IT department filling in those gaps, you're on your own. And if you want to be on your own, just get Linux. I mean, why force Linux to be like Windows? And why force Windows to be like Linux? They both exist. They're both available. Why not just pick the one you want rather than picking the one you don't want to work like the one you want? That's the thing I can't wrap my head around. I just don't have that kind of time to mess around like that. We get it done. We have a goal, we have a mission, we have a budget for both time and money. We get that done, we move on to the next one. Anyone that holds us up potentially costs us the next one who can't wait anymore. So I don't have the luxury of sitting around the house with nothing to do to play. If you do, play. But when you come here, you're talking to somebody who's running a business. So just keep that in mind. The type of answer you're going to get from me is not coming from an enthusiast. If you're an enthusiast and you want enthusiast advice, you might want to, and no differently, by the way. If you want Windows to run like Linux, or you want Linux to run like Windows, if you go to a working technician and you want him to sound like an enthusiast, you see what I'm getting at? You're in the wrong place. You're picking the wrong tools. I don't know what else to say. It's weird. I want you to conform to what I want. No, I don't do that unless you're paying me. If you're not paying me, this is what we do here. If that's not what you were looking for, there are other places that do what you're looking for. I want my Windows to look like Linux. Well, just go get Linux. I don't understand this manipulation of things that is completely unnecessary, you know, in my opinion, a waste of time. But again, you asked me my opinion. I suspect you're not liking my answer. Let's see, did that finish? Let's go full screen on 2 over here. Okay, so 16,494. This is where it shows up on our chart. And our max temp hit was 87.1. Let's run the single core test. We'll come over here. Now, usually, the single core test doesn't get as hot with it's only one core that's working. You got to remember, these cores are all bumped up right next to each other, just, you know, the width of a human hair apart, or, you know, fraction of a millimeter. So the heat of one can affect the heat of the next one. So when we're just running off one of these several cores here, you'll notice one is getting hotter than all the others. Or you should be. Let's see. Right now, they're all pretty much in the 40s, which, by the way, that's a fantastic temperature right now, even an idle temperature. See, this left side, this is our current temps. And then the middle is the minimum since the software's been started that it's recorded in temperature on the CPU cores. And in the maximum, that's what I'm looking at here, just overall, what it has temporarily peaked at before coming back down. And that's what you're supposed to see. It shouldn't just peak and then stay there. It should come back down. So that's why I'm watching both this side and this side over here. But so it looks like core 3 is the one getting hot. I'm guessing that's the core we're using, given all the other cores are mostly staying the same. But the cores that are nearest to core 5 will also get some of the radiant heat off of that core, and it will make them a little hotter too. Generally speaking, and I'm making an assumption that the cores are side by side, it's possible that the two highest temps may be actually next to each other on the die, and it may not be in a numerical order that is horizontal or vertical, horizontal or vertical. So I'm not quite sure how the circuitry is laid out on it. You notice how core 3 is hotter and core 5 is hotter. I suspect core 3 and core 5 are right next to each other on the CPU die. That would explain it. But I am assuming, so I could be wrong. And I don't care enough to take it apart and find out. Let's see, get back over here. Pixelbyte said the CPU is like an i9 10900K overclocked. Well, I suppose, but the CPU also has an NPU on it, and a 10900 does not have an NPU. And you're going to feel pretty silly in a couple of years when you can't imagine owning a computer without an NPU that you thought a 10900K was similar to this. But if you narrow your scope down and ignore the NPU because you're not using one right now, and you eliminate that benefit, I can see your point. Okay, we're just at about, we're about 20 minutes away from being 3 hours long on this video. But at least I'm getting the review I really wanted to get originally off the bigger AI X1 Pro. X1 AI Pro. And I will revisit this as soon as I have time. I was shocked that I could not find any reviews on the X1 AI non-Pro. And if any of you can find a review, whether it's written or a video, on this model, please let me know. As far as I know, we're the only ones who have it, outside of Minisforum's official YouTube channel, where they go over this, and they did that like a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. But it's definitely, I don't know, for me, I know that they're not going to be critical of themselves, right? Versus a content creator, and that varies on the content creator, how critical they are or what they're looking for, myself included. Opening this really easy. If we look underneath, we've got 4 screws, and you notice the rubber feet are, the screw is here, the rubber foot is just over a little bit. I've been suggesting this for a long time. You don't have to put a hole in the rubber foot, but you also don't have to put the rubber foot over the screw hole. So 4 Phillips screws, that just pops the cover off. There's a little indent right there, little cutaway, and you can stick a spudger or a really small flat blade screwdriver very carefully, not to gouge the plastic, and pop that bottom off. There's an arrow on the bottom pointing this way towards the front, so you know which direction it goes back on. And this is going to give you access to your memory, your storage, and your Wi-Fi card. You don't need to get to this side of it. From time to time, you could get some canned air and blow through the sides. And these back vents right here, that's all your CPU cooling. That's where you're going to feel the heat coming out. just like any other mini PC. You don't need to get to this for any reason at any time. At that point, you've got a warranty issue, or the unit's so old it's out of warranty. You might consider replacing it if like these are often sealed with liquid metal. If you try and do liquid metal yourself, you will never get it the way the factory got it here because it requires special tooling, a robotic arm that applies this. A human being cannot do this. What happens with liquid metal when a person applies it is they'll see an instant benefit in cooling, but then it starts to oxidize. And what's worse is if you're on a tower and the computer is sitting sideways, it starts to get hot and drip out. Liquid metal drips out and onto your circuit board. It's nothing to play with. I don't recommend it. It's an enthusiast activity only, or let them put it on at the factory. If you think you can improve the cooling on this by taking the CPU cooler off, you've ruined it. You'll never make it as good as it was. You can only make it worse. You cannot make that better unless you're putting a liquid cooler on it and leaving the case off of it. If you want it to fit back in the case with these dimensions, using liquid metal, you cannot do it better than the factory. Don't believe me? Prove me wrong. It's your money. I got no dog in the race. I'm not telling you should send it to me to do it, because even I wouldn't do it, and I wouldn't charge anybody to do it, because I'd be charging them to break their computer, to make it worse. So I'd say, nope, not doing that work. All right, just so you know where I'm coming from, there's no hidden agenda here other than common sense. There's our final score on Cinebench. Let me, hold on a second. Let me get rid of camera one more time. And then what I'll do is save. Oh, it's not quite done. It's 2.5 minutes left. So what I wanted to do is take a screenshot of this, but not quite done yet. And look where it's up here on the single core. It's kicking everything's butt, I think. All right, so while we're still waiting, go back over to camera one. Now, where were we in the chat room? You can benchmark memory with 8 of 64. I know. You don't think I know that? I don't like it. If you want to watch the way other people do things, I'm not stopping you. But if you want to watch the way Carey does it for his business and his customers, you're only going to find that here. So keep that in mind. Before you suggest that Carey does things the way everybody else is doing it, Carey doesn't want to be like everybody else. And the way everybody else does it, they're not the ones answering to my customers, my reputation, my pricing, and my support issues. Right? So I have a very strict reason why I do what I do to run my business, and I simply turn my cameras on to give you an insider look at that. It is not to replicate what other people are doing. Those other people have, I don't know what their motivation is, but for me, 8 of 64 is a fine tool. I don't use it. Midnight Club says, I want to stay on Windows 10. Okay. Go ahead. I don't care. Do you think you need my permission? Barry Klein saying hello, just got back from a pinball festival. It's nice to see actual physics in it. Hey, was Todd Tuckey at the pinball festival? He travels around from TNT Amusements. He's got a great YouTube channel here. We've had him on as a guest. He's based in Philadelphia, and he's been running TNT Amusements for 45 years, fixing, repairing pinball and arcade machines, jukeboxes, anything arcade related. And boy, that would have been exciting if you got to see him there. Nerd celebrity. Let's take a look one more time at our progress. We've got to be getting close to the finish line. Barry says, I didn't see him there this year. Well, if you know who he is and you knew to look for him, I guess he wasn't there. All right, once this finishes this final render, that'll be the end of the single core test. And we'll get a number. Getting there. Our hottest temps recorded at 87.1. That's fantastic. No pun intended. It's been really quiet. There has been a slight difference in fan noise, but it's very minor. And when it's idling, you really have to listen for it to hear it. And when it's cranked up to get these high temps down, you can definitely notice it, but it's not like you have to talk over it or anything. It's definitely there though. But really, really quiet. Just overall, one of the quietest so far. This may not be as done as I thought it was, so I'm going to come back over here to camera 1. We'll just continue to talk with the chat room as we wait. Code Panda says, what kind of certificates would you recommend for beginners in IT? You know, I've been getting this question for 15 or 20 years, and my answer has always been the same. You only get the certifications, because remember, you have to pay for these. You only get certifications that the job requires you to have. So if you're going on a job interview, and they say, we'd love to hire you, but you don't have this so-and-so certification, and you want that job, then tell them you'll get it. Don't try to read their mind and know what they want. You'll never win that game. And the companies that sell certification, training, and testing are going to make a lot of money from you. That's the opposite of working. That's spending. So the certifications you should get are the certifications your employer or potential employer requires. If you're looking to work in the IT field of a bank, any financial institution, you might find they all want the same certification entry level. And if so, you know to go get that certification to make yourself qualified for future positions at that company in that position. But you will never know, and no one can tell you. So if you're just getting certifications, then you're spending money. Well, if you're not spending money, you probably don't need the job. If you need the job, wait until you get the job to spend the money, unless that job says, well, if you had the certification, we'd pay you and hire you, then make the investment in yourself. Otherwise, you're just wasting money when you least can afford to. Plenty of jobs will hire you without any certifications and train you. Those are the ones I suggest you look for. Patrick says, my gaming laptop does not have TPM 2.0. Oh, he's got a 7700. He's just under the wire. But that's over 10 years old, man. You have an 11-year-old laptop? I'll just save as much funds as I can, reduce DoorDash ordering. Look, laptops aren't really designed more than for 6 years. If you can get 8 years out of a laptop, you're lucky. And if you can go anything over 8 years, you're on borrowed time. So you've had 3 years to do something about this, in my opinion, and you've procrastinated for one reason or another. Now, your laptop's not going to stop working on October 14th. It'll continue to run, and I think it'll probably be okay, I think, till the end of the year. But if you're still using a 7th generation, what's going to be a 12-year-old laptop, online on the internet, you know how much hacking has advanced in the last 12 years? Oh, man, they're going to love you online. So take it offline. Pay for the extended security updates for 30 bucks. It'll get you another 12 months, and you can procrastinate for 12 more months. Maybe don't buy such a high-end laptop, and it can be affordable. You know, if that 7700 that you bought 10 years ago, 11 years ago, that probably wasn't cheap. But if you calculate out how much you've been paying for it per month overall, it's definitely giving you your money's worth. And to ask it or expect it of any more just doesn't seem reasonable. You should have done this on your own 3 years ago. The fact that you didn't. So here's my point. Here's the thing I just don't understand. A laptop that high end is usually purchased by the most demanding of customers. And when that computer stops fulfilling the demanding use, that usually happens within 4 to 6 years. So for that demanding customer to continue to use something that's just getting slower and slower as more programs just get bigger and require more resources, the computer's having to work harder to do the bare minimums than when it was new, when software was simpler and easier. And I'm talking about security software here too. So if you're the kind of personality that would buy that to begin with, it surprises me that it still operates well enough today to meet your requirements that you had when you bought it, because it hasn't been doing that for at least 3 years. So that's the hypocrisy that I can't get my head around. Is if you just wanted a budget computer that operated for a good 3 to 5 years and then replace it every 3 to 5 years, you could have spent a lot less. You could have bought 2 laptops, one that was a lesser model of that 7700. You could have bought one for half the price and used it for 4 or 5 years, then bought another one. You'd still be good. You'd be basically Windows 11 compliant now, and likely would have spent the same amount of money. The reason people don't do that is because one that would be half the price wouldn't have been good enough. But then how is it good enough for the last 3 years under the same logic? That you hadn't just voluntarily said, I can't stand this anymore. Never mind whatever Windows 11 requirements are. Take that off the table. How is this still an acceptable machine? Have you become less demanding? Are you willing to accept less? It's not usually the way it works, but it doesn't make any sense to me. Not that it has to, but I do try to understand the psychology of customers' decisions to anticipate future solutions for them. That's why I ask. It's not meant to tease or make fun. I genuinely and sincerely want to understand the logic here, because I can't. There's a part of this I'm not getting. Maybe my assumption is you paid for it. Maybe someone gave it to you. Maybe you didn't buy it brand new. Maybe it was on sale. Maybe somebody bought it as a gift. I don't know. Okay, did the test finish? Let me get rid of camera 1 again. Okay, 1796 on the single core. That puts us way up at the top here. Granted, these are old benchmark numbers at Cinebench R23, but nonetheless. 87.1. Okay. So what I want to do is, let's see, right click. Oh, I could just take a screenshot of the whole screen. Just hit print screen. We'll go into Microsoft Paint. Control V, and that should give me all my results that I will save. Save it as a JPEG. We'll call it Cinebench results. And then, yeah, JPEG on the desktop. Right there. Save. Then I can close that, close that, close that, close that. And we don't need Cinebench anymore. Delete it. I don't need Crystal Disk Info and delete it. I don't need Crystal Disk Portable or Hardware Info anymore, nor do I need my optimizer anymore. It's all done. I don't need these fixes anymore. Empty that recycle bin. Right click, sort. Desktop. Sorted in descending. I want it sorted in ascending order. And then I'll run disk cleanup. And didn't this say PC Manager was on here? See that? Where's that at? LMNOP, PC Manager. Is that just a shortcut to download it, or was it installed? Because nothing's happening. Oh, it's installed. Nice. All right, start automatically. Yes. Use the, okay, that's fine. Boost. Boost me, baby. Just deep cleaning, I'll do that. Proceed. Go back home. Set Smart Boost on. Put that away. Come over here. We'll clean up different system files. You'd think they were all the same, but they're not. And we're going to run just a disk cleanup to get rid of any sort of detritus or leftover files from Windows Update or even the factory floor. That's almost 3 gigs, 2.5 gigs of junk. We're going to wipe off this drive and free that real estate up for us to use. And while we're waiting, I'll right click on the taskbar, make sure I can see PC Manager down here running. That will remind me that I have it. If I don't see it, how do I remember I have it? So we're going to turn that on. I also want that on. Okay, and that's my preference. That's just what I like. I want to just click on that and eject my flash drive that I have in there. Put that back away. We were done with that some time ago. Okay, I think that's going to wrap it up. We're just at about the 3-hour mark. I want to thank all of you for hanging out with me today, and of course to Mara for all the work that she does in the background, all the hard work that she does getting these videos ready, the time she spends on the thumbnails and the video descriptions. Our friends over at Minisforum for so generously sending this to us with no rules or conditions for us to review without their oversight. We're able to do this live and be honest, and they get to see the video at the same time you do, and they accept my criticisms and my compliments, and they continue to send me units. They always ask me first, which I appreciate, because if I think a company has a product I'm not going to like, I don't want to do the video. If I'm reviewing it, it's because, and with few exceptions, there's been a couple, but not many, it's because I genuinely think this thing has promise, right? So when I heard about the Pro, I got to see that. Blew my mind, better than I even thought it could be. This one, fantastic. If I couldn't afford this, and I had a choice between the workstation, the MSO1, and this, ooh, that's a tough choice. If I want those 2 USB 4 ports, I want this, but if I want Thunderbolt over there, I want the MSO1. About the same price. But that's a tough one. It would have to depend on if you had the aesthetic preference of one unit over the other, if you preferred Intel over AMD, although they have the MSA1 and now the A2. There gets to be a point of analysis paralysis where you can't make a decision, where financially they're identical, and in power and performance where they're different, there's pros and cons. That's a tough one. They're great units, so I don't think you can go wrong. But at the end of the day, if I was forced to make a decision, I mean, I want this one. This is the one I want. But if I can't have it, I will gladly take this one. But it depends, again, on how it's being used. So there you go. So again, thanks to Minisforum. Thanks to our friends at SCD Keys. You know, when we go to SCD Keys, in fact, let me go there now. If I look in my video notes for today's video, we have links, and it says there's Windows 10 Pro for 15 bucks. You click on that link and you're going to get this web page right here for SCD Keys. Then you'll see, I'm going to cancel that. You'll see it says $22.46. So what you're going to do is you're going to say buy now. And the Windows 10 Pro key currently, and until the end of Windows 10 at least, will activate Windows 11 Pro with the same key, but it costs less money than a Windows 11 Pro key. So why spend more if you don't have to? I'm just trying to save you money. I'm not making commission on this. Okay, so $22.46, great price. Carey, I thought you said it was 15. Yeah, it's 15 and change. You hit buy it now, and you have to sign in. What do I sign in with? You just sign up. Free. You need an email address and a password, okay? Because they got to know who the receipts, what name is the receipt going to go under. When you call for support, you're just looking for free help, or are you a customer? You have to make this account. You have to. You'd be a fool not to. Once you made the account, it's going to take you right back here again. Do it again. Now buy it. Right? Now you want to check out. It says, do you have a discount code? Yes, I do. It's Carey, C-A-R-E-Y. Hit apply. That price drops from $22.46 right now on May the 2nd, 2025. This will drop to $15.72, and you can pay with PayPal. So you know. And then you're going to get an email that tells you how to proceed. You're going to go. You can leave this window open when you're done paying, and give it about 90 seconds, 2 minutes, and it's going to take you into the login page where you're already logged in and show a history of your purchases and all the previous key codes you've purchased for each product. So if this is your first time, you're going to find your code in there. If this is not your first time, you're going to be reminded of everything you've purchased before and what all your codes are, since you lost them and you don't know where they are. Because that's what people do. And this is how they handle the sheer enormity of people wasting support time because they are too lazy to look in their email, or they wiped out their computer and now they need their codes. They don't know where their codes are. They're unorganized, and they expect the company to keep your records for you at no cost. Well, that's what the account is for. You guys forced companies to do this. So take advantage of it. It's not a bad thing. And they will hold on to every purchase you ever made for years and years. I can go to Amazon right now and look at the purchases I made in 1997. Just book spec then. I can see all the books I bought 28 years ago. That's pretty damn cool. Well, SCD Key does the same thing, and don't look down upon that. That's a benefit for you. Now, SCD Keys also sells, you know, I will sit here and tell you on keyboard not to buy or install Windows, what is it, Windows 10. I think they offer the LTSC on here. My coupon code works universally. Any of these products. I don't know what a Windows 12 Pro is. That's, what is this? This has got to be a mistake. Oh, it's server. It's a server. Okay. I see what they did. It's 2012 server. Okay. You still want to buy Windows 7? 8.1. So here, Enterprise LTSC. Enterprise means this is for corporations. It's not intended. It is not intended to be put in the hands of a consumer. And when you need help and you're going to have some unique issues nobody else you know is going to have, unless you hang out in a group of people running LTSC, those aren't regular people. Those are really techie people. You're on your own with that, my friend. So I'm not here to tell you what you can buy, and I'm not here to tell SCD Keys what they can sell. I'm here to tell you what I'm willing to help you with, and I will not help you with this. But I'm also not going to keep it away from you. I'm fully transparent here, and I want you to know that's up to you to make. You're a big boy. You can make your own decisions. You don't want to listen to me and take my advice, but you're still going to buy it anyway? At least buy it from a trustworthy site. Okay? That's all I'm saying. Or don't. Gamble away with sketchy websites. I don't care. I'm just trying to, if you're going to do something I don't advise you to do, at least do it safely. If you can't be good, at least be careful. All right, that's going to wrap it up. As I mentioned, I appreciate everybody hanging out, all of your contributions and super chats today, which includes, probably missed some, didn't I? Shamim Keshvir has renewed their membership, now a member for 23 months. Shamim says, it's been almost 2 years. It's amazing how time flies. Thank you for your videos. They're relaxing and full of knowledge. Thanks also to the community in the chat. Every time I have an issue, they're very supportive. Agreed. And thank you for being a part of that community. Gregory Howard, good to see you again. Thank you again for your membership and your super chat. Jose Lopez, again, thank you for your membership and your super chat. Our friend Buster and Mark Gaines, you guys are amazing. Thank you, guys. Scotland and Northern Ireland, they're representing there. Thank you so much for your membership and your support. And of course, Ray, who is also a member and also super chatted today. Look at that. It was only members that contributed. That's pretty cool. And you look, member or not, thank you for being here and interacting with us in our chat room. We love interacting with you. I love interacting with you. And I know everybody loves interacting with everyone else. And you can't do that sitting there passively like this is a TV show. If you want to be passive and live vicariously through others, I guess, go ahead. But it's so much better when you get involved, and we'd love to have you. You're welcome to join us when we're live. We'd love to see you in the live chat. Just be nice. That's it. And that's going to wrap it up. Lost my place. The Minisforum X1 AI, right? Is it AI X1, X1 AI, or X1 AI Pro? Two very different machines. Be aware of that. If you're going to order one, understand which one you're going to be getting. And this is all brand new tech. This stuff just came out. So if you like having the latest and greatest and you want it to last a while, sure, you pay a little bit more for the latest and greatest, but in theory, it should last, you know, much longer before it starts feeling sluggish and it needs to be replaced, depending on what your needs and expectations are. That being said, that's going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you all again very soon. Thanks to all the members. Thanks to Mara. Thanks to Minisforum. Thanks to SCD Keys, and for everybody hanging out with us. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. We hope you have a great weekend. Until next time, bye for now.